Okay, the Planning Commission meeting for the City of Palos Verdes Estates for September 17, 2024 is now in order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, may we have the roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner Nendek?
Here.
Commissioner Foster?
Here.
Commissioner Campisi?
Here.
Vice Chairman Lazaro is absent. Chairman Wade?
Here.
Chairman Wade, you have a quorum.
Okay. Let me get this. I'm into speaker card management here. It'll take me a second. Okay, generally, before we proceed too far with our agendas, I'd like to just say a few remarks about the neighborhood compatibility process and about the process that we follow here at Planning Commission meetings. I know some of you are back who have been here before, but some are not. So I routinely go through the procedures so that everybody knows exactly how we conduct our meetings and what the protocol is if you wish to speak. So let me begin with neighborhood compatibility, and I do like to make a few remarks about this because it's a process that can be quite complicated. It can be quite contentious, but it doesn't have to be. So let me just say a few things about this. The process that we have here in the city is intended to be transparent and collaborative among neighbors. It's a process where the applicant on a proposed project will meet with affected neighbors to discuss the project. The parties will then discuss at a public meeting conducted in the neighborhood the impacts and concerns that neighbors may have within the parameters of neighborhood compatibility requirements. And then we hope that the applicant steps back and considers such feedback and takes reasonable steps to mitigate valid concerns. The intent we have in the city is that all parties, applicant and neighbors, and frankly, we're all here tonight as neighbors. We here on the commission are your neighbors as well. Our hope is that the parties in a given matter will come to the table in a spirit of reasonableness and good faith and be willing to compromise. When this happens, the neighborhood compatibility process can move more quickly and be relatively painless. And in the end, our common objective is to preserve the beauty and the harmony of this special place that we consider home, and at the end of the day, to live together as friends and neighbors. When this doesn't occur, the process can span several commission meetings, and it can get contentious, and quite often the commission is left to come up with a solution. Our intent as the Planning Commission is to apply the city requirements and the guidelines in a manner that is balanced, consistent, fair, and reasonable. We don't promise that we will please all the people all the time, but we hope that you can see at the end of the day that the process has been just this, and that it's also a process in which all parties can feel at the end of the day that they've been heard. And we all need to work together to make this happen. Now, as to the process that we follow in our Planning Commission meetings, the process has three parts for each application that we consider. First, we turn to city staff. City staff has prepared a staff report on the given item, and the staff here will kind of brief the commissioners on the item, and commissioners will have an opportunity to ask the staff any questions that we may have. After we conclude that, I'll open the public meeting, public hearing. The applicant will have 5 minutes to present their project, and they will also have another 5 minutes at the conclusion after all public remarks are made for any rebuttal or further comments that they didn't make in their opening statement. If members of the public, and the applicant for that matter, wish to speak, please fill out one of these little pink slips. It's not a termination notice. I don't take it personally. Just fill out your name and what item you want to speak on and pass it forward to Jeffrey, and Jeffrey will relay it to me. When you do speak, there's a podium on my right, your left. Please speak into the microphone at that podium. Again, we time the remarks from the applicant, 5 minutes opening, 5-minute closing, and all other public comments will be 3 minutes long, and there's a clock to my left and a clock to my right. So you can see when you're speaking the countdown clock. Please try to be mindful of our time. We have a number of people here tonight. We have a number of matters before us tonight, and we want to be as expeditious and fair as we can to everyone. So when all the public comments are heard, the applicant has their final 5 minutes, we'll close the public hearing, and then the commission will discuss and decide the matter if we can. Okay, with that said, I think we're ready to proceed with tonight's agenda, and we will turn to approval of the agenda. So do commissioners wish to make any changes to tonight's agenda as presented? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Go ahead.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The agenda is approved. We will now turn to communications from the public. And this is a time during the Planning Commission meeting that if there are members of the public here who wish to address matters that are not, again, not on tonight's agenda, they'll have an opportunity, 3 minutes to do so. Under California law, the commission is prohibited from discussing or taking any action on any matter that's not on the agenda unless the matter is deemed to be an emergency under state law or the matter arose subsequent to the posting of the agenda. I do have one speaker card from Mr. Rigg for public comments. If anyone else wishes to make those, please pass a card forward. Mr. Rigg.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I want to take tonight an opportunity to talk about 2 ways I think you could enhance the process even more than it is. The first is regarding the street trees that you routinely required to be planted as part of neighborhood compatibility approvals. It's kind of incongruous, and I've worked with a lot of neighbors that get frustrated, not only the applicant but the neighbors, and that you work very, very hard, especially on a new home such as 1500 Chelsea, to push the home down to open up the view or to not block the view with the new home. But then the requirement is for the street trees, which then come in oftentimes and take out a lot more view than what you've given the neighborhood and required the applicant to go through. So there's kind of a disconnect there. I was at Parklands Committee Thursday. I thought of your process, and there's been a lot of discussion on of trees in the city, and the Parklands Committee performing in a more positive manner towards the removal of trees. And what they do is when they remove trees, similar to the way you open up views with pushing down homes, they require new trees to be planted or a contribution to the tree bank so the trees can be planted somewhere where they're not a problem. And so I know that residents have become frustrated. We work so hard to push the house down, but now I've got a big bunch of trees in front of me that my view is now worse than before anything started. The second item, and I'm happy that the council has introduced the ordinance for the codification of the definitions of an addition, remodel versus a new home for your purposes, because that's important. It's consistent with policy, past policy. It's consistent with the building code. But I would urge you to take a look at what's happened on some of the applications over the past few years where applicants game the system by purporting that they're keeping, let's say, a first-story home, a one-story home, and they're going to simply plop a second-story addition on the top. This restricts you from your ability to push the home further into the ground and other methods to reduce the impacts. But then what happens is they go to the building department, they tear the whole house down, and lo and behold, you could have push the house down. So they've taken away some of your ability to have good approvals and good applications. What I would suggest is a condition of approval when these types of projects come to you, that if it's one of those applications where they're purporting to keep something in order and that something else is going to be on top of it, a condition of approval that if during construction that the definition of the home would evolve from a addition remodel to a new home because they've torn the whole house down, that the approval becomes invalid. And I think if you did that type of approval or that type of condition, people wouldn't try to game the system the way they are. Thank you for your time. And
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no other speaker cards for public comments. Again, does anyone wish to say anything? Okay, otherwise we will proceed to the consent agenda. And tonight we have 2 items on the consent agenda: the minutes from our September 11th, 2024 Special Planning Committee meeting, and recent administrative approvals that we routinely receive, review, and file. Do commissioners want to discuss or remove either of these items?
I have to recuse myself as I was not part of the the Planning Commission meeting.
Okay. Other comments?
Nothing for me.
All right. Then do I have a motion to approve items 1 and 2 on tonight's consent calendar?
I will move to approve items 1 and 2 on the consent agenda.
And a second?
Second?
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Okay, we'll then proceed to the business at hand, and item 3 is a neighborhood compatibility application for an addition and remodel of a single-family residence at 385 Palos Verdes Drive West. At this point, before we go to the staff report, do commissioners have any ex parte communications or activities pertaining to this item that are not otherwise reflected in the record that warrant disclosure at this point?
Yes, I've made site visits to 356 Via Almar and 389 and 381 Palos Verdes Drive West.
Okay.
I do not.
I did visit Mr. Screeb at 356 Via Almar.
I've made site visits previously, but not this time.
Okay. All right. Maybe we have the staff report.
Yes, thank you, Chair Wade, members of the Planning Commission, and members of the public. Tonight's presentation is for a continued neighborhood compatibility application for an addition and remodel to an existing single-family residence located at 385 Palos Verdes Drive West. Just to recap what we've been reviewing, the scope of work is a 599 square foot first floor addition, a 1,221 square foot basement addition, and 836 square feet of hardscape being added to the property. At the last meeting, when this was last heard at the June 18th, 2024 Planning Commission, there was a request from the Planning Commission to have a survey, an updated survey provided to help the commission better make a decision regarding the project. Since then, the applicant has provided that new survey, and it is included with the plan set. As such, several of the indicators regarding ridge heights for the subject residence and the adjacent residences have also been updated to reflect that survey. But there are no other changes that have been made to the project, such as making, no other changes have been made to the project. The findings required to approve are outlined in staff's report, as is staff's recommendation. This concludes my staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have for me at this time. Thank you.
Okay, questions for Jeffrey? So I did hear you to say that we had no changes other than those changes indicated by the survey, and that's basically the adjustment of the existing ridge line on the property and the ridge lines of the adjacent properties along PV Drive West.
Right, and those, you can see those on sheet G003 for the radius map. A010 for the existing roof ridge elevation, and A200 and 201, where those would be reflected.
Yeah, so just for the record, I think the original survey indicated that 389 and 381 PB Drive West were about relatively the same height as what was proposed by the applicant. The new survey shows that the proposed project at 385 would be 5.5 feet higher than 389 and 1.5 feet higher than the neighbor at 381. Okay, I have one other question on the plans, attachment, well, I'm sorry, attachment C, the neighborhood compatibility comparison chart shows the floor area of the proposed project without the garage at 4,201 square feet, 148% of the average within 300 feet. And sheet G003 of the plan shows the floor area at 3,786 square feet, which is 133% of the average. Can you, any idea what the difference is here? Are the plans in error?
Let me take a look. Let me confirm with you.
Okay.
Really quick. Okay, you were looking at G003.
G3, yeah. Is that the right page?
I think it's 1.
Yeah, it's somewhere on the...
Okay, so this, the neighborhood compatibility chart that they used was from November 15th.
From their initial submittal,
From
which
the
was
initial
larger.
submittal. The one that's attached to the staff report will reflect the most recent.
Okay. Any other questions for Jeffrey?
Jeffrey,
Yes.
one question. On the survey, the cross-section, the one that shows the neighborhood, is this the existing height of the property? It says 109.3? Or is that
G003?
no, it's the second page of the topical survey. See, the
This should be-
Subject property is 190.3.
Yes. This should be the existing property.
Existing, not as the plans exist, show.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
So Jeffrey, do you know what the FAR is then? It's supposed to be like a 38%, a 40%. And on the staff report, it never reflects how it's written on the actual.
Let's see, proposed total floor area is at 4,671 square feet. They're allowed 4,810 square feet. That FAR number though. $45, 46%?
Well, you take out you take out the garage, right?
Oh, are you talking about from attachment C? I did it for the entire site,
Right.
for the entire
The way the
building.
FAR is done, it's based upon excluding the garage because that's not part of
Right.
numbers.
So according to attachment C, then that should be 148% of the of homes within a 300-foot radius.
Right, but typically it's done as, what we're looking at is that a floor area ratio doesn't exceed 40%. So I'll figure it out. It's okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All set.
Okay. All set?
Typically, you do it by doing the square footage divided by the lot.
Right, so I did that, I'm sorry.
And that gives you, I think, 41.3%.
I misunderstood, because I'd included the garage with my first calculation.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for Jeffrey? All right, hearing none. The applicant has their first 5 minutes to present the project. Is the applicant present? I don't have a speaker card.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I had to fill out a card.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Are you here to speak?
Yes, for the applicant.
Okay, very good. Just tell us your name when you get to the podium.
Good evening, board. Hi, I'm Eddie Osich. I'm the architect on the project. And, yeah, the one item that's really kind of changed since the last time, upon the board's suggestions, we went back into the city and reviewed the existing drawings and topographic maps of the adjacent sites. And then after that, the client also hired a new survey from a local survey from a local survey company, is a PV survey. And then we also took that information and put it back into our drawings to update them all to match. So now we're using the consistent information all the way across. And that was the biggest change in the drawings. So you can see now, just for instance, the main height of the floor is all at the 180 feet of the main floor, which is actually the current height of the current garage, or current floor of the current garage. And there's just a couple of other things. The things that were really updated on the survey, for instance, the 389 was added, their elevations, 381, 377, 373, 392, and 356. And a new topographic survey was also provided. We also had, on our drawings, we also updated the A010 with the existing roof ridge elevation. And on A200, as Jeffrey mentioned, and A200 and A201, the existing roof ridge, the elevations have also, the building elevations have also been updated. That's kind of it. I mean, it was just technical updates.
Okay. Well, we appreciate the fact that you did get the survey. It actually confirmed pretty much what we visually were seeing, so that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Can you tell me what the height of the existing ridge on the garage is? I don't see it on, but
I
what's
don't-
the existing height?
It should be also on the survey as well. We have it there? Sorry, I always print you guys really big ones, but then I have small ones for myself.
No, I just don't see any ridges on the survey.
Well, it's on the topographical survey, the next page. It does have the ridges on them.
Right, but it doesn't have the existing ridge of the garage. That's what I was curious about.
Oh, they just didn't include that number. I see what you're saying. No, we don't have that anywhere.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Jeez.
Other questions for the applicant? All right. We will give you your 5 minutes when others have an opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have two speaker cards, Renee Scribe and Christine Fine. So Renee, if you would.
René Scribe here, 356 Via Almar. Reviewing the latest remodel plans for 385 PV Drive West, it shows that the house is designed to be just under the maximum size permitted by our city code. The proposed roof ridge height appears to be at least 5 feet higher than the existing house roof line. This massive outline would still dominate our neighborhood. The height could easily be reduced by a foot or more, and this would make it more acceptable to us by improving our light and privacy, and also be less intrusive for our neighborhood. As the present silhouette is inaccurate, we would like to submit pictures depicting today and the main 1924 contours. Could an updated silhouette of the final roof line be reconstructed? We thank you for your guidance and your lengthy consideration of this case.
Thank you. And Christine Fine.
He's got some photos.
Hey, I'm Christine Fine. I reside at 389 PV Drive West, which is the house directly to the west of this house at 385. We do have concerns. We have an objection. For one thing, please note on the new plans that you have that for some reason our house, my house at 389 is shown to be a full 3-story house. It is not. It is a 2-story house. There's not any, anyway, so please note that. And looking at the present position of the silhouettes, okay, it is hard to tell whether they are accurate or not. We understood with the previous plan that the roof height was to be 1.5 foot higher than our roof and their existing roof, which was acceptable to us. After checking the new plans, we now find that the roof, as has been mentioned, is proposed to be 5.5 feet higher. And we're concerned that their deck will now be higher than depicted in the last proposal because their upper floor elevation is now proposed to be higher. This makes for a massive structure next to our home as well as for the neighborhood, as Mr. René Scribe had just said as well. In conclusion, we would like for the plans to accurately reflect the previous increase of roof height to be a maximum of 1.5 feet. Also, we would like the height of the proposed upper floor to be lower as it was in the previous plans. Thank you. And thank you for your time and attention to the details on all the plans.
So let me ask, I think the applicant did eliminate windows
Yes.
facing your property, so you don't have any concerns about
No.
privacy anymore?
No, and in fact, before we saw these new plans, we were fine. We thought we don't have any objections.
Right.
You know, these are, you know, nice people. We have no objections for them having their new home. But then when we saw the new plans and we saw the increase of 5 feet in the roof, and we saw the increase in elevation of the floors, and then we thought we had to come here and speak.
I think, actually, I think the plans that we are looking at tonight are virtually the same as they existed last June. There was a June 11th set of plans. And there really hasn't been a change in the project. They haven't raised floors, lowered floors. All they've done is shown the proper elevations. So,
Well, then what is the difference in the height? How has it gone up 5 feet?
well, they actually,
Or was that the original amount, and it's
Right.
now corrected to that? When we saw it as going up 1/2 foot, it's now been corrected to what, going up 5 feet?
well, Right now, it'll be, 5.5 feet higher than 389 and 1.5 feet higher than 381. And I think that was what they were proposing last June.
Okay, I mean, I would differ with that, but you are the expert.
I know it's
on it.
confusing because
It
this
is-
matter's been before us for a long time.
Very
and seen
true.
different sets of plans, but I think
True.
that's the case. If other commissioners have a different view on that, please chime in.
I think it's the case, but I think it's very hard to tell with the flags, because if the roof has gone up 5.5 feet, and if you look from neighboring houses, you would think that if the pitch is the same as the existing, then you would see a 5-foot difference at the eaves, but you don't, so something is difficult to understand.
Yeah, I think it is, when I was at Mr. Screeve's home this past weekend, you could tell that there was some sag and some of the silhouette lines had come down, so it is very difficult to see. But my understanding is that the project is basically what was presented in the June 11th plans as well. So, but thank you. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Okay, if not, we'll close the public hearing and bring the matter back to the commission for discussion.
5 more minutes for him.
Oh, 5 minutes, I'm sorry. If you want 5 more minutes, perhaps you can answer the question whether there's any change in the project.
Oh, no,
Other
there hasn't been. It was, to add a matter of clarity to the whole project.
Okay.
There was a lot of questions Janine
Okay,
had brought
so
up.
basically, again, the changes were different elevations, existing elevation and the elevations of the surrounding homes.
Right.
Okay,
And you actually said it best, on one side it's 1.5 and the other side is 5.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a quick question, Mr. Osich, if I could. Go ahead.
No, you go
Commissioner
ahead.
Nendick, you spoke first.
That's okay, you can go. I was just going to ask you, what is the roof pitch of the existing house?
It's currently close to 3 and 1. And that
It's
we're
3 and
retaining-
12?
3 and 12, excuse me, yes.
Okay, and so you're going to 4 and 12?
No, we're keeping it pretty much the same. It's just that we're moving also the actual ridge, we have pushed it back from where it is currently.
No, I understand that, and I think
Yeah.
that's a great thing, but I thought on the plans here, yeah, it definitely says you're at 4 and 12.
Okay.
So are you saying you think previously it was 3 and 12, and now you're at 4 and 12?
I'd have to double check about my ridges.
Okay, well, because I'm trying to figure out, if you're building, if you have an eave here, and you're at the same pitch, right? Then if you go up 5.5 feet here, you need to go up 5.5 feet on your eave, right?
Yes,
So that's what, and when you're out there, even though the flags are, worse for wear, but on the corner, you can see it, and it doesn't look like it's up 5.5 feet, and that's what's very confusing.
okay,
Thanks.
all right,
Go ahead, Christian.
thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Whoops, one more question. Yep.
Mr. Osich, if you don't mind stepping back up, I think I'm with some of the members of the public here and just trying to wrap my head around where we've been the last 8-9 months that this has been before us, and just please bear with me. I'm just trying to really arrive at sort of a conclusion here to back up what Chair Wade has sort of said. So I believe we started at a max ridge height of 198.1, and we're now arriving at a final maximum ridge height of 195 and 6 inches.
Yes,
And that is confirmed by the survey, which I believe, Mr. Graham, you spoke, and the city has certified the survey and the elevations are accurate, so.
Right. Yes, they provided an updated silhouette certification.
Okay, but the silhouette to me, just using my eyeballs, driving by and stopping in front of the home, it looked sagging and it looked sort of in disrepair. And I'm just curious if that was because it's been out there for many months since this happened, or were the silhouettes updated when the survey was completed?
I'd have to refer to the applicant on that. I do know that they have provided, an updated silhouette certification with the engineer who completed the survey.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, because I think I'm with some of the neighbors and just trying to wrap my head around the silhouettes don't necessarily show the 5 feet elevation difference of the roof height, but I believe that's because the elevations have been updated, so it's actually not 5 feet of silhouette space from the existing roof to the top of the silhouette. So I just want to make that point, because that's what I think people are looking for. They're looking for a 5 foot from the silhouette to the top of the current ridge, and that's not actually what we're looking for here.
Sure, yeah, and I would have to refer to the applicant on that.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, as far as are you talking about the quality of the silhouette, or?
Well, we could put the quality aside, because I don't think anyone's going to argue about the quality. I think what we're talking about is just if the maximum ridge height, I think neighbors are looking at that maximum ridge height of the silhouette and saying, okay, is that the true height of what the silhouette's going to be? And then they're looking at the plans and saying, okay, there's now a 5 foot elevation difference between what you're proposing and the neighbor next door. And so I think most people, like myself, were thinking there should be 5 feet in there. I'm just curious, I guess there's not necessarily a question, but if the silhouettes are certified and the city has signed off on them, and there's not really a question here, it's more of just making sure that we've checked all the, it's sort of a trust but verify type of situation.
Exactly. So when per the municipal code, the silhouette certification is pretty much the engineer saying that everything is being built per the plan. And so if somebody were to challenge that, that's that engineer's stamp license on the line.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then, I think that's a fair question, because if the plans were wrong, like we had them wrong before, saying the wrong numbers, and the silhouette was done to the wrong numbers, then, and now there's new numbers that are corrected that are different, how do we know that they're to the right number? I guess the question would be.
The surveyor that they have should be saying that they're correct per their stamp, and that's what we.
But isn't the survey, the certification you're talking about was the one that was done in June?
No, we just got a new one with this new survey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to go on.
We did get an updated one, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further
Appreciate it.
questions?
Just saying thank you.
Okay. We'll close the public hearing and bring the matter back for discussion.
Mr. Foster wants to start.
Well, I can start, and so this has been a difficult and time-consuming process. I think Commissioner Campisi said it was 8 or 9 months, and it seems like it's been every bit of that. I want to thank all of the neighbors, many of whom are here this evening. Some who were participated in the past are not here, but I want to thank them for their participation and for their patience. This has been a difficult process. Doesn't always have to be this way, but it was. I also want to thank the applicant for making several, I think, meaningful changes to the project in response to neighbor concerns over height, massing, privacy, and view concerns on the part of residents in the adjacent area, as well as the upper barrel of PV Drive West. At this point, I have only one remaining concern, and that's the height of the project. As I mentioned before, I recently, this past weekend, visited the Scribe residence at 356 Via Almar, and I previously viewed the silhouette from several houses in the upper barrel of PV Drive West. In my opinion, the project still looms a bit over the Scribes and impacts their privacy in the rear portion of their home. The project also impacts ocean views to some extent on the upper barrel, and those views range from relatively small to more significant. But nevertheless, these impacts, I believe, are significant and I think warrant further mitigation. And I also hasten to add that I think these impacts are really unnecessary. The proposed project has a lower plate height of 9.5 feet and a first floor plate height of 10 feet with a volume ceiling. So there's space there, available space, I think, to accommodate a further lowering of the ridge heights. And what I would propose in moving towards approval of this project is that the ridge heights be lowered 1 to 2 feet and that there be a condition added, that there be no administrative action or minor modifications that would increase those ridge heights.
I would agree with some things. I think it is still big. It's still too big here. Because it's supposed to be neighborhood compatibility, and when I look at the sections of showing the houses next door on either side, by raising the finished floor up, close to 2 feet, a foot and 3/4, whatever it is, I think that really throws things off, because if you look at the home, I'm just trying to get to it. If we look at the home that is to the east, the finished floor is 179.5. The existing finished floor on this one is 178.3, and the one to the west is 177.7, and the street's dropping down. So my feeling is, if the floor shouldn't be raised, because that's kind of the trajectory of the neighborhood character. So for me, I would like it to come down. I don't know all the exact numbers, but I'd like it to drop down to the 178 again. And then if you want to keep the high ceiling, your plate heights, I think you should drop it to 3 and 12 pitch. And that is an easy way to bring it down. So I think those two things are what I would need to happen, because you need to keep the character along the street, and when you have the houses all going like this, and then one comes up like this, it throws it off. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
So they would just take the lower floor and excavate further down?
They could choose. They could choose to have a lower plate heights. They get to choose in something. Theoretically, yes, they'll probably excavate down a little bit more. But, you can choose, maybe you don't have a 9-foot plate height down there, you have an 8, and then you don't have to do as much excavation, because what is the floor differential about?
Yeah, I think we're talking about, I'm hearing you say what I think I said, and that is, I think we need some lowering of maybe 1 to 2 feet. And there's a variety of ways they can get at that. I, for one, am not going to really suggest that they grade down further. I think it's up to them to come up with that.
Well, then, I think my numbers come out to about 2 3/4 drop. By doing the plate height, the pitch, that drops you about a foot. And I just think that they need to come down. That raising it up throws me off too much on the visual.
So your recommendation is 2 3/4 feet?
Right.
I could probably go 2.
But I think you're being specific with the upper floor, finished floor elevation, right? You want it to be as close to 178 as possible?
I think so, because I think that keeps the neighborhood character.
Yeah. I see
That
what
kind
you're
of,
talking about.
I'm just trying to say, okay, we're supposed to be doing neighborhood character, and the neighborhood character is that natural flow, then all of a sudden, it's coming up. So that throws everything off. And then I do the roof pitch, because you can do a 3 and 12. You have high ceilings. If you don't want to do the 3 and 12, you want to stay, then you can lower your 10-something plate height some.
Okay.
Did they already lower this from the original plans?
Started,
Or just the plans with the numbers were wrong?
which part though? What, the height, the ridge height? It started at 198, we're down
Yeah.
to 195 now.
Was that because the numbers were wrong, or was that because we actually already took something out of the
No, I
Looks
think,
like it's been lowered about 2.5
I think they've
feet.
lowered it.
yeah, they've lowered it. Well, I think we have the makings of a motion, it sounds like, unless, Mr. Foster, you have some additional.
No, I'm okay with where we are. Should we ask the applicant if they're willing to do that?
I don't think that's really what we do, unless you want to.
I think we,
I mean, it's conditions of approval, I
I think we
believe.
can recommend that as a decision, those are conditions of approval.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we just need to just decide what the finished floor of the main level would be, because 178 and 4 inches, 178 feet, 4 inches is the existing finished floor elevation according to their latest
Well, the survey shows 178.3.
Okay, well, this page says 4, but,
4.
okay.
Well,
Well, we'll take a
okay,
look.
this is the survey.
Okay. So this is the next page of the survey.
Okay.
Well, we're off by an inch.
Yep.
So,
All right.
and the other thing I think is that, I think the garage ridge line should stay the same as it is now, because you don't have to have high ceilings in the garage. And that, when you go to some of the houses up on the upper barrel, it's the cross that gets you there. So I think that keeping that at that height, and you keep the same floor height that you have in the garage now, you don't have to play with that at all.
So you're talking about a lowering of the main ridge height, not the garage.
I was saying that, yes, I'm talking about lowering the main, but I'm also saying that I don't know how much the new garage ridge line is raised, but I think that needs to come back to the original ridge line of it that you see now. But I don't know what the original was. Well, the original, I can't find it on here. So that's why I was, and it's, it's not on the survey or anywhere, so, but I think we could make a condition of that, right?
Do we have to say a measurement, though, or just?
The proposed garaged ridge shall match the existing ridge of the garage, something like that.
I think it shows a 193.3 and a half on A1.
Yeah, but that's what they're proposing.
That's what the plan shows.
Yeah, you see the red line below, there's no number? They give you top of plate, but they don't give you top of ridge.
The existing roof is 192.1 and a half. That's on 201, A201.
192 point,
How many inches?
point what?
I don't know, I didn't hear it. What was the measurement? What's the measurement of the garage on the plans?
Like it shows existing is 192 and 1.5 inches.
0.5? Is it 5?
1.5 inches.
Look at
I see.
plan A201.
Mm-hmm.
It has two numbers on there. One is existing and one is proposed.
Got it.
For the garage.
I see it.
Is that, what page are you on?
A201.
201.
So does that say 10 and a half?
Look at the ridge height. It's 192,
Yeah, it's existing roof ridge, top of ridge, 192,
10 and a half. 1 and a half?
1.5.
192 feet.
1.5 inches.
1.5 inches. It's on A201, the south building elevation.
Oh, I see that. Or no, it says,
192-1 and 1/2 inch.
Yep.
okay.
And then next to it is the proposed, which is 193, 3 and a half.
Okay,
So that's the number we can use, the 193.
okay,
3.5.
that's perfect.
Okay. Yeah,
Somebody ready to make a motion?
Yep.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion for a neighborhood compatibility application for an addition and remodel to an existing single-family resident at 385 Palos Verdes Drive West, to approve with the following conditions. Condition 1 is to maintain the existing first floor finished elevation, thereby lowering the roof that amount as well, and to reduce the proposed ridgeline roof pitch from 4 and 12 to 3 and 12, as well as proposed garage ridge line shall be at 192, 1.5 inches. Vegetation, I think, should be limited to the adjacent ridge lines. Elevations, I think, need to be certified as to matching the plans before a final or a occupancy permit. And as far as I see, no walls or fences in the front setback to exceed 3.5 feet.
Would also add a condition that there be no administrative actions or minor mods that would increase the heights of the ridges.
Turn your mic on.
Oh, sorry, did I turn it off? That there be no administrative actions or minor modifications that would increase the ridge heights that have
The envelope.
just been recommended. All right, do we have a second?
Good? Did we cover it?
Can you repeat the first condition again? 'Cause that one is,
It's the finished floor elevation. I think we need
So-
to say the elevation, don't we?
that would help. So I'd
Okay.
say
178.
lower the
178.
finished floor elevation to
To
170.
178 feet and 3 inches.
Okay.
178 feet and 3 inches.
What floor is that?
The upper, the finished, the main finished
main
floor.
Okay, main finished floor, okay.
Yeah. And then with that, you want to lower the ridges accordingly.
Yes.
Okay.
And also lowering the pitch.
Yep, we have that. That was a separate condition, right?
But does the finished floor elevation handle the roof height, the maximum roof height? Or do we have to specify that?
No, I think that this will, we don't have,
Because
we don't have that number, so.
What's
The
190?
floor heights are remaining the same. Is that correct? That's the intent.
The intent is that it's the same as what's existing right now. Right?
But the-
And so the ridge will come down a commensurate amount.
Right. So I think there's the plate height is 10 feet on the top. So it would just come down according to what's already proposed for that 10 feet.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
As well as the pitch.
Well, it'd be the combination of the pitch,
Yes, that's a separate condition that we
Both
have.
those will bring the
pitch
ridge down.
and the plate.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Thank you very much. And congratulations, finally, you have an approved project, which I think is neighborhood compatible. Thank you very much. All right, we will now move to agenda item number 4, which is a miscellaneous application for an existing non-standard encroachments at 999 Paseo La Cresta. May we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Chair Wade, members.
Let me, before I get to the staff report, just ask commissioners if they have any ex parte communications or activities pertaining to this item that are not reflected in the record that should be disclosed at this point.
I made a site visit to 999 Paseo La Cresta.
I did likewise.
I did as well, but did not speak to the owner.
I also made a site visit, but didn't speak to the owner.
Okay. May we have the staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Wade, members of the Planning Commission, and members of the public. Tonight's presentation is a miscellaneous application for existing non-standard encroachments for the property located at 999 Paseo La Cresta. The non-standard encroachments that we're discussing tonight are already located on the property. They have been there for some time. And the reason that they are being brought forward today is because at this project was last heard for a neighborhood compatibility application for an addition. One of the conditions that the Public Works Department added was to address these non-standard encroachments that hadn't been previously approved. So from the time the project was originally approved in 1998, 1997, till now, there was non-standard encroachments that were never approved. And so this miscellaneous application is to address those tonight. To be specific, the encroachments are a fountain, pavers, concrete planters, and a hedge. The finding required to approve is outlined in the staff report as a staff's recommendation. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have for me this time. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes.
I'm really trying to understand the process, and I might be missing something, but when plans go through the neighborhood compatibility process, and they're approved, and then later an addition is put on, right? If the original approval, and it was through the neighborhood compatibility process, and after when this code was written, about non-standard, what you have to do, okay, the applicant has to get them approved again? Or, because I went to homeowners association and looked at the plans, everything except for the pots were on those plans. So all those non-standard were already approved. So I'm trying to understand, if you go through neighborhood compatibility and you get them all approved, and then you do an addition, do you have to go and get them all approved again?
So the Public Works Department has their own set of plans on file. And so the way that it was explained to me is that if the plans that they have don't match the PVHA plans. So I think in this case, let's say the fountain is on the Homes Association plans, but the plans that they have that were approved doesn't have that.
Okay.
They don't have record of that non-standard encroachment ever being approved.
So that's how, okay.
Yeah.
So the other thing, so on the plans, you can have grass. So we're not approving grass in the,
You can have grass.
right? And
right.
I was under the impression, we've been told, that we can have up to 30-inch tall vegetation.
Yeah.
And the planter's 30 inches tall, the hedge is 30 inches tall. So I don't quite understand why that's before us.
Yeah, that was the Public Works Department brought that up to me. But according to their standards, they are allowed to have a 30-inch hedge in front.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Jeffrey? All right, if not, Mr. Bloomer is back.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. And yeah, Jeffrey's done a great job of kind of explaining it here. And I'm here tonight to ask for your approval to grant these non-standard encroachments. And I want to remind everybody that this is a very unique lot with a 60-foot setback. And that's, none in the neighborhood have even close to that.
Yeah.
I was here to start off with previously to try to get a fence. That was denied. I accepted that denial. All these encroachments that are in there have been there, as Jeff has said, for many, many years. And they've been maintained by the property owners and will continue to be. So I'm asking the board to approve these non-standard encroachments.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Bloomer? Okay. All right, I don't have any cards indicating anybody wants to speak on this item. Does anyone from the public want to address this? If not, Mr. Bloomer, you really have another 5 minutes if you need 5 more minutes.
No, but I do have a question. I thought somebody had mentioned that assuming I get approval tonight from the Planning Commission, does this have to go to City Council or is it done and I can pull my permit?
No, you'll have to sign a license agreement, and that's done through the Public Works Department.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that process involved?
I don't know off top, but it doesn't have. It used to go to City Council. It no longer needs to go.
Good.
No, it doesn't. No, they told me it doesn't need to go to City Council.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I have a quick question, Mr. Bloomer, while you're up here. Obviously, you're not here voluntarily. You're being asked to come and address this, and part of what Commissioner Nendick, I tend to agree that this is sort of digging up some old stuff here. I guess to be in compliance, has the city suggested what you need to do to make these non-standard encroachment standard? Is there, from your understanding, is that not how this works, or? No? Can you educate me?
they're not going to be standard encroachments, they're non-standard encroachments. They'll enter into a license agreement about maintaining them and
I
stuff.
think the fact that they are in the city right-of-way is the problem.
Is the problem.
Is the
Right,
issue.
Okay.
Right, but we don't have anything from the building department saying it's a problem.
No, it's
No.
just a problem by their mere presence, I think.
That's exactly it.
It's technicality.
Yep.
Okay.
If I may, one last thing. I do appreciate the Planning Commission and everybody here involved in being sympathetic to me, that, like Ms. Nednick said, that this really should have been addressed when we were doing the backyard. Everybody walked through it, knew it was there. They knew it was there also because it was previous with the fence that I got denied. And I believe it was you, Chair Wade, that waived my fee. So, or at least the Planning Commission did, and I appreciate that. So, thank you.
Okay. We'll bring the matter back to the commission and for discussion.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Everybody's smiling, but nobody's speaking.
Yeah. I don't have any issues with approving this.
I don't either, because I don't know how you get down there without having steps, because there's a big drop.
Right.
So I think that, typically we don't have steps because they're a liability, but going there, I don't see how you can get down there without steps, so, and safely down there, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think this is as Mr. Bloomer said, we're dealing with what I think is a pretty unusual, if not a unique situation with the deep city right-of-way. I think it's roughly, I measured it out, I think it's roughly 56 feet to 60 feet, compared to what looks to be about 15 feet for other properties in the area. Several lots in the surrounding neighborhood have pilasters, gates, and walls or fencing in the front setback over 3.5 feet. I think not to allow these features here would create somewhat of an anomaly for this property. It would look rather odd not to have a walkway or any features in the front and have it that stark appearance. I think it would perhaps even be out of character for the neighborhood. So I think considering the unique setback and the city right-of-way requirements, and considering that these features really have no adverse effect on any other property, I think I would certainly approve the miscellaneous application for the non-standard encroachments in this case.
Yeah, I'll make a motion if we're ready.
I think so.
I'll make a motion to approve miscellaneous application M04524 for 999 Paseo La Cresta.
I second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. You're always welcome to come back, though. Thank you. Okay, our next item is item 5. It's a miscellaneous application for accessory structures exceeding 6.5 feet in height in the rear yard area at 1412 Via Gabriel. We'll go through the routine of asking if commissioners have any ex parte communications or activities pertaining to item 5 that are not reflected in the record that warrant disclosure.
I made a site visit to 1412 Via Gabriel. I made a site visit to 1412 Via Gabriel.
Yeah, I spoke to the applicant, Mr. Clark Corey. I also spoke to their neighbor at 1408 John Sheffield.
Okay, and I likewise made a site visit to 1412 and spoke to Mr. Curry.
And I as well did, made a site visit and talked to the applicant.
Okay, may we have a staff report, Jeffrey?
Yes, thank you, Chair Wade, members of the Planning Commission, and members of the public. Tonight's presentation is a miscellaneous application for accessory structures exceeding 6.5 feet in height, located at 1412 Via Gabriel. The scope of work includes a detached pergola with a height of 9 feet 8 inches in the rear yard, a fireplace attached to the pergola at a height of 8 foot 10 inches in the rear yard, and a stone veneer wall at a height of 6 foot 10 inches for pool equipment enclosure. Total lot coverage is at 44.38%, which is less than the 65 maximum allowed. The finding required to approve and staff's recommendation is in the staff report. This concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have for me at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Questions for Jeffrey?
Yeah, Jeffrey, the subject came up with regards to these structures. Are they measured from natural grade or from existing grade?
They're being measured from existing grade.
Yeah, I was confused about that. I thought it was because it was a building on it, but it's considered an accessory structure. An accessory structure is natural grade or existing, whatever is lower, so I was very confused about that. But Jeffrey explained it to me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions for Jeffrey? Okay, hearing none, we will close the portion of the meeting pertaining to the staff report and open the public hearing. And I have a card from Kelsey Fair, who I believe represents Mr. Curry.
Yeah, I'm just here to answer any questions you guys might have on the project. That's it.
Okay, do we have any questions for Ms. Fair? Okay, well, that's the shortest presentation I've ever seen.
I have one question. I just want to
I'm
confirm.
not going to let you off the hook that easy.
One quick question. I just want to confirm that all these structures are not within any setback, right?
That's correct. That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I do have a card from Fred Chow.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Thank you for the time. I'm a neighbor to the rear of the said property, and I'm only here because I wasn't aware of the structures that were being produced from this project. And upon hearing it, I have no concerns over it. I was only concerned with the view from my backyard into their lot. But since they're, substantially lower than we won't even notice it, so I have
Okay. Well,
no
thank you.
concerns. Thank you.
Very much. Ms. Fair, you have another 5 minutes if you want to elaborate on your earlier presentation. No? Okay. Brevity is always appreciated. Okay, we'll close the public hearing then and begin our discussions.
I'll start. I think this is relatively approvable here. We it's 12 feet 6 inches from the neighbor's side yard to the Sheffields, who are at 1408 Via Gabriel. They won't even see it from their backyard. There's some elevation changes between the two properties. I think the location of the pergola and the fireplace, it looks like the applicant thought through this and kept it away from the property edge to mitigate any issues. So the neighbors are fine with it. This is the second neighbor now that has said that they're okay with it. So I don't see any reason why we would not approve this.
I agree.
I would likewise agree. I did visit the property, and it's interesting. Mr. Curry has a kind of a playground, swing set, and I think a little treehouse type of structure there, largely in the same area as the pergola and the fireplace, and relatively close in height to that. And my sense was, as I looked around to the neighboring properties, side properties, and to the rear, there's lush hedges and vegetation along the side and rear property lines, I think, that would largely obscure the views of the pergola and the fireplace. And I really see no issue with the pool equipment enclosure. So I think in the absence of any neighbor objections, I would approve the miscellaneous application.
I agree.
All right. I'll make a motion. Make a motion to approve the miscellaneous application for a new accessory structure exceeding 6.5 feet at 1412 Via Gabriel.
All right, I'll second. In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Wow. Okay, we will move to item 6, which is a miscellaneous application for an accessory structure exceeding 8 feet in height at 3821 Via Palomino. Again, I will ask commissioners if they have any ex parte communications or activities that are not in the record that need to be disclosed at this time.
I made a site visit to 624 Via Bodega and spoke to the resident, and she showed me where it was. No one else was around when I went.
Yeah, I visited the applicant, knocked on their door, nobody was home. I did walk around the fire trail, and I did not speak to anybody.
Okay, I went to the resident and kind of peeked towards the back of their property. Didn't seem to be anyone home at the time. And I did go next door and spoke to the neighbor at 3817 Via Palomino, Caitlin Stetson, who said that they had no objections to the project. I went around to the home in the rear, I think over on Via Bodega. I don't recall the number, I think it's 624. And I went there twice, but no one was there. So those are my disclosures.
I toured the property as well, the subject property, and was unable to contact anyone.
Okay, may we have a staff report, Jeffrey?
Yes, thank you, Chair Wade. Tonight's presentation is for a miscellaneous application for an accessory structure exceeding 8 feet in height at 3821 Via Palomino. The scope of work includes a 1,029 square foot detached garage with a height of 14 feet, 4 inches in the rear yard. Also attached to that is a 800 square foot detached ADU, which will be reviewed ministerially. The proposed total lot coverage is at 35.6%, and the finding required to approve and the recommendation is outlined in the report, staff's report. Please, this concludes my presentation. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
I do have a question. If you have an existing attached garage that you're keeping, can you also then do a detached garage somewhere else on the lot?
Yes, yes, you can.
You can have 2 separate garages.
Yep. As long as the municipal code just outlines that you must have 2 a garage with 2 covered parking spaces.
Right.
But beyond that is if they meet the lot coverage, fall within those requirements and floor area requirements.
Because I know if you're certain size, up to a certain size lot, you can only have 3 spots in code. But this is bigger. But I just was surprised that you could have an attached and a detached, so I just wanted to make certain. Thank you.
Jeffrey, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I know this includes a AUD, and I know that we're not looking at the AUD. But I just need some clarification. On a prior property that we looked at
Yes.
on this street that also had an AUD on it, there was an issue with regards to fire access and so forth. I understand that's changed or something's happened. Can you clarify that?
Yes, so that requirement no longer meets state review requirements for ADUs, and so that requirement for the width of the fire road for fire safety has been removed from the code. And so now, essentially, and I don't want to go too deep into the ADU requirements, but essentially, if they're proposing a state mandated or state allowed ADU, which is an 800 square feet or less ADU with 4-foot setbacks, less than 16 feet in height, then it has to be reviewed ministerially and approved.
Okay.
But the question is that when you start seeing all these trellises and everything extending from that, state code doesn't dictate that. So then how does that get dealt with when they're, the structure's higher than whatever in the side setbacks or the rear typical rear setback? Would that then have to come to us to say, yes, you can put that structure in the back 15, if it's a 2-story house, the back 15 feet?
Our understanding is that that would still be part of the ADU, and we can get that, in reading the handbook, that was our understanding, we can get more legal.
I think that's something that should be looked into,
Sure.
because typically there's rules with the homeowners association
Yep.
that you can't have trellises inside setbacks and things like that. And so I don't remember reading anything from, in that code from the state that says you have the right to have whatever trellises you want. I mean, you have the 800 square feet. Anything outside of that, I guess it's the city's right to make a determination.
Sure.
And as we just had to do the, the pergola,
Mm-hmm.
I just think we need to be the same for everyone.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions for Jeffrey? All right, hearing none. Kelsey Fair is back.
I'll try to keep this brief. So just to address some of your comments, this project has been approved by the fire department. The architectural projections, so the trellises on the ADU were per the art jury, so those were to match the main residence. The main residence has similar structures, so it was to keep it in the style of the home. And I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, questions for Ms. Park? All right, hearing none. You have a full 10 minutes if you really
I'm
want.
all good.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we will close the public hearing and begin our discussion of the application.
We'll keep the same theme going here. This is a 25,000 square foot lot, and the space that they're putting this in is cleared right now. So it looks like, without any neighbor objections, it seems like it's reasonable, it fits within, it's satisfying all code. I don't see any issue. I know that the fire code seems to be a little bit of a gray area, but if the fire department signed off on it, I think we have their approval. So I'm inclined to support this.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't, the neighbor, the one neighbor I was able to speak to had no objection. She's the next door neighbor. I would think that the applicant, or I'm sorry, the neighbor at 624 Bodega would have a greater interest, but I was unable to speak to anyone there, and they have not submitted any comments indicating any objection, nor have any other neighbors. So our basis for approval is whether or not there's an adverse effect on any other property, and I see none. So I'm prepared to approve the miscellaneous application.
And I spoke to 624, and while she says it's kind of close to her, she's not going to fight it. So.
Not hearing any real neighbor objection. I don't have any problems with it either.
Okay, then I think, let's make a motion here. Okay, I would move approval of miscellaneous application M-033-24 for a new accessory structure exceeding 8 feet at 3821 Via Palomino, subject to the conditions in the resolution.
I'll second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, moving right along, we will go to item 7, which is a neighborhood compatibility application, grading and miscellaneous applications for an addition and remodel to an existing single-family residence at 529 Via Media.
Recusal.
I have to recuse myself because I live within 300 feet.
Okay. All right, Ms. Nendick is recused. Before we proceed to the staff report, I will ask if the remaining commissioners have any ex parte communications or activities pertaining to this item that are not reflected in the record and warrant disclosure at this time.
I viewed the subject property, but did not speak with it.
Yes, sorry, were you finished? Sorry, I'm just trying to collect my notes. I met with the neighbor across the street, Kathy Bobian, and I'm forgetting her address. I also spoke with John Nendick, who also lives across the street and a couple houses over. I attempted to visit the applicant. Nobody was home. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, I likewise visited the property. I did speak to John Nendick at 508 Via Media, and I went also to the home of Ms. Covington at 520 and observed the silhouette, spoke to her, and went further down the street to 524 and had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Holman about the project. Okay, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Chair Wade. Tonight's presentation is a neighborhood compatibility grading permit and miscellaneous application for an addition and remodel to an existing single-family residence located at 529 Via Media. The application includes neighborhood compatibility for an 818 square foot first floor addition, a 505 square foot basement addition, 459 square foot garage, and 4 square feet of hardscape. Also includes grading due to the quantity of cut and fill exceeding 250 cubic yards, and then a miscellaneous application for driveway gate in the rear exceeding 8 feet in height, and a wall exceeding 42 inches in the setback adjacent to the street. That's the wall. It's like a decorative wall, right, pretty close to the entrance of the home. All of this is located on a lot with a size of 14,300 square feet. The proposed total floor area is 5,981 square feet. I do have to make a correction to the staff report. The maximum allowed says 5,210 square feet. It should actually be 6,040 square feet. The proposed floor area comparison is at 160% of the average floor area of existing homes within a 300-foot radius. Proposed floor area ratio comparison is at 98%. Proposed total building coverage is at 29.9% with 30% maximum allowed. Proposed total lot coverage is at 64.4% with the maximum of 65% allowed. The proposed maximum building height of the addition is 18.5 feet when measured from an intersecting natural grade elevation of 91.6. And the findings required to approve are outlined in staff's report, as is staff's recommendation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have for me at this time. Thank you.
Okay, so Jeffrey, I'm still unclear whether the proposed project exceeds the allowable building coverage.
Right.
I understand that the unenclosed deck at the rear does not count in calculating building coverage. But what about the extension to the garage
Right.
below?
So and I spoke to the applicant today, and the applicant can speak to this. Per their plans, I believe it's sheet... Well, in short, the applicant says that the entirety of the garage is being included in lot coverage. But as you addressed, it doesn't appear that is so because...
I think it's shown on sheet 1.1.
Yeah. A1.1, but I think there's another sheet, the lot coverage diagram.
Which it shows, it shows lot coverage, but this shows the extension of the garage out under the enclosed porch.
Yep.
It's roughly 11 feet by 13 feet.
Yep, exactly.
And I didn't see that that was included in the lot coverage calculation.
Okay. The applicant is saying that it is, and so he would need to speak to that. But according to the lot coverage diagram, that is not being shown being included. I think he was saying that there's an error.
It seems to show the upper floor, but not the lower floor.
Or not the lower floor, exactly.
And my question also is, there's footage deleted. There's 7 feet deleted, which I understand, because that's outside the building.
Right.
And there's a reduction of 14 feet
Right.
within the building.
Right.
Looks like it's taken out on the second floor, but it would still be included, would it not, in the lower level?
It should be included if it is part of the ground floor. the applicant explained to me that the total floor area that he calculated for the stairs was 28 feet, and so he took out 14 of that wasn't part of the second floor.
Okay, but it's still included in the bottom floor, right?
It still would be, it still would be included in the
We're
bottom.
basically measuring the lot coverage from the bottom floor.
That's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
right. Right,
So I think I'm hearing you kind of agreeing with my questions here.
right.
Okay. All right. Any further questions for Jeffrey? Okay, I have a number of cards here, but first speaker would be Jonathan Park, who I think is the architect, correct? Okay. And maybe you can help me.
Sure, I can answer further questions to that extent. Good evening, commissioners. And I was gonna to make a change and make revision to the numbers that came up. And in fact, on the sheet number 002 and A02, the entire garage area that extends below the covered area has been included in the building area and then went into the building lot coverage area. So so we could keep it below 30% threshold.
Where is it included?
It should be included in the garage plan.
Okay, so I'm looking at sheet A0.0, and it shows Area 1 addition, and it shows your removal of the 7 feet, the 14 feet, but it does, and it shows the extension of the unenclosed deck, but there's nothing that shows that that portion of the garage is included.
On A1.1, we do have a new one-car garage in the basement with the corresponding square footage there. 459 square feet for the garage.
No, does that include all the space out to
where the gate is.
under the enclosed deck?
Yes, sir. So there's two gates, one by the alley and the second gate inside from the alley. And we have counted all of that area as a part of the garage, which is under the covered deck area.
I guess what's confusing then is on the plans, it only shows the shaded area over the upper level, and it doesn't show the extension as included. If you see, it shows new extension or new addition. That's again back on sheet A0.0 shows Area 1 addition. It's just showing the addition up on the upper level. It's not showing the addition on the lower level. That's what's confusing.
What I'm saying is that the area below, as part of a proposed garage with 459 square feet, has been added to the building area.
Okay.
And therefore counted into the building lot coverage area.
So what is then is your total building coverage number, including that, if it's included somewhere? Because it's confusing from the other chart that you have, too, from building lot coverage. You show that list, and you show new addition.
So the total lot coverage area is 4,279 square feet. which is the total building area, 4,279 square feet.
Okay, I'm still confused. On A0.2, you show building area table, and you show numbers A through K. I don't see 459 square feet in that list.
The 459 square feet is on A0.0 under proposed floor area. Under the garage section, which says 459, proposed floor area. A0.0.
Okay, again, you show 3 areas as part of the addition. Number I, J, and K. That does not show the extension of the garage. So I don't see the square footage for the area under the deck included, unless I'm missing something.
Can I have a minute? I need to consult to myself.
Actually, if you want to go ahead, I'll tell you what, why don't you make your 5-minute presentation, whatever's.
Okay.
I've questioned.
Then we go over that later.
beginning, so you haven't had an opportunity yet. So I jumped on you a little quickly. So if you want to go ahead and do your 5-minute presentation, and then when you sit down, you can do some more homework and you can answer it in the second 5 minutes that you have.
Okay, so for this project, we had 3 silhouette construction and then 2 neighborhood meeting. And we had a good amount of input and comments from the neighbors surrounding the property. And we took all of those comments and made changes to the roof line and made changes to the floor, proposed area, the finished floor area, where when before it was over 18 inches from the existing living area, we made 12 inches below the existing living area. So in overall, we had 30 inches changes into the mass going below the existing living area. And also we changed the roof line several times so that the existing 16 feet ridge line running east-west was cut in half by 50%, which amounts to be 10 foot 10 inches from existing living area projecting towards the east, 10 foot 10 inches, 50% less than before, and then we lowered the new ridge line for the addition area to 14 feet, 2 feet less from the previous ridge line, and then as moves towards the cover area ridge line, we made that to be 12 foot 9 inches, and it was all of this was possible because we changed the gable roof to hip roof, reducing the angles and mass, and then make the visibility concern from the neighbors to be much more adaptable or acceptable, should I say. And that was the main changes to the design, lowering the finished floor, keeping top plate heights for the proposed addition to 8 foot 2, and then keeping the cover area top plate level to 7 foot, and then making it our hip roof, as I said before, and reduces the roof mass considerably. That we think that we did address the concern from the neighbors across the street. And that's evident in the sheet A 3.0 and on the section AA, which shows step down roof lines reducing 16 feet to 14 feet to 12 foot 9. And also we have included 3D renderings towards the end of the page, so you can see the changes we made in successively with the 3 silhouette changes, and you can see the differences in the mass and the roof line, opening up the view for the neighbors too. We did consider one reason that we kept the cover roof area covered is because we do have some, this is for the owner, that we're having a pool in the backyard and then having a view from across the street into the patio area in the back. Is, we do have some concern over our privacy to be using the pool area in the backyard area without being pried upon or without the privacy issue. That's all for now. Yes.
Okay, you have 5 minutes remaining, and we'll come back to you.
Mr. Parks, sheet AO-.2, if you can, on your next 5 minutes, please confirm to the Planning Commission that that sheet is accurate, because that's what they're referring to regarding the lot coverage, how you have the lot coverage all figured out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, we have a number of, I have 4 cards. The first speaker will be John Nendick, followed by Norman Eagle.
Excuse me, can you pass these out to? Shall I go ahead, Chairman Wade?
Yep.
Go ahead. Okay. Good evening. My name is John Nendick, and I live at 508 Via Media across the street from the applicant. This commentary supplements the more detailed letter that was submitted on September the 13th. I request the Planning Commission deny the proposed plans and give the applicant input to 1. Reduce the ridge height of the proposed new wing by at least 3 feet. 2. Remove the roof of the outdoor entertainment area. And 3. Remove the extension of the main ridgeline to the east. The proposed addition unreasonably blocks the ocean and sunset views from the primary living and eating area of our home. Here are the reasons. Firstly, neighborhood. Lower Malaga Cove in general, and Via Media in particular, is a terraced community where homeowners generally prioritize ocean and sunset views over lot size. Most homes are single lots, with some on double lots. Homes on double lots that have gone through the Planning Commission process successfully have not been approved to take away neighbors' views. These include 421 Via Media, 505 Paseo del Mar, and our home at 508 Via Media. In fact, in order to accomplish minimum view impact to our neighbors, our remodel included ceiling heights in our bedrooms of less than 8 feet and a roof pitch of 3 and 12. The applicant's home is on a double lot and, in my opinion, can follow a consistent approach and not need to block neighbors' views in order to achieve their remodel goals. 2. Second bite at the apple. This is the second add-on requested by the applicant since they moved into their home. The first process increased ridge heights and blocked neighbors' views over the west side of the double lot, with neighbors thinking this was a compromise as views on the east side have until now remained open. 3. Increased square footage. I attended the neighborhood meetings during which the applicants indicated their goal was to increase the square footage of the home. In fact, the proposed plans as submitted result in greater than maximum allowable building lot coverage. There are practical and reasonable ways this can be done without the proposed increases to ridge height to the east, namely bringing the proposed first floor level close to natural grade. So, in summary, our proposal is to 1, reduce the ridge height by 3 feet by stepping down the new proposed east wing situated on the lower of the 2 lots by lowering the proposed new first story of the home closer to natural grade. 2, remove the roof of the proposed outdoor entertainment area. We take exception to the idea that an area that does not count towards allowable square footage or building lot coverage will remove neighborhood ocean views, and suggest an umbrella or other shade item over an open deck entertainment area could be a more reasonable alternative. 3, remove the extension of the main ridge line to the east, as lowering the new east wing will no longer require this new extension. Lastly, we ask that any approval include the 3 conditions stated in my letter and request that changes be silhouetted prior to the next neighborhood meeting. Thank you.
So John, quick question. On the diagram that you just passed forward,
yes, sir.
It shows a green area, and I guess I didn't identify this, but you say that this green area in front of the driveway, I'm sorry, the garage extension is covered as well?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Any further questions for John?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Eagle.
Good evening. My name is Norman Eagle, and I live at 528 Via Media. My wife and I moved into our current house in 1986, 2 years before the neighborhood compatibility was passed in 1988, and very, very proud to be one of the Via Media residents to urge the City Council to pass it. They were very nervous, hesitant, didn't know it would hold up. We were a real force in doing so. The ordinance has helped residents ever since throughout the entire city. We supported the applicant when they did their first remodel in 2010, even though we lost a small portion of our view. A number of years later, they added solar panels on their red tile roof directly facing our house that permanently changed our view that we look at every day. We were not consulted and had no choice, nor did the city. It permanently took away from the fine view we once had. Now we are addressing another addition, and it will cause us and our neighbors to lose a part of our view. And after reviewing the plans, we believe they can accomplish their goals by making compromises. Please deny approval of this application until all necessary changes are made to protect views and privacy issues. We appreciate your time and effort that you put in. And I have one more comment. If you're going to give any suggestions or guidelines to the applicant or the architect, I know you're not there to design the changes. That's for the architect. But please be as forceful and specific as you possibly can, because unfortunately many of us residents throughout the years, we go back 88 for me and many others, multiple meetings, the architect comes back with barely making changes, and we go through meeting after meeting, tired. You get tired, we get tired, it's not right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I have one more card. I think it is John Landerville. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, John Landerville, 532 Via Media. My wife and I have lived in the city since 2010. We recently moved to the Via Media house from Via Montemar. What I would state, we were traveling, so I didn't get the notice of the meeting until Monday, and we didn't have time to submit any formal documentation. We've been traveling in Europe for 3 weeks. But bottom line, any extension of that roof to the east cuts our view of the ocean and beach area from our main floor seating position. We have a dining room there. We also have a view area kind of coming into the property, and it would pretty much annihilate that view of the beach area. We would have, ocean view above the roof, but the view to the beach area would be taken away by any extension to the east. So we are slightly southwest of the subject property, and our view is basically to the north and to the east. So we would request consideration of not allowing that portion of the project because it will definitely impact our view. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I just received another speaker card. It's 520 via media.
Kathy Bobian,
Okay,
please.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. I apologize about the card. I got them late.
You're anonymous.
I'm anonymous.
No, you look familiar now. I recognize you.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for your time. So my name is Kathy Bobian. I am across the street from 529. My address is 520 Via Media. I'm opposed to this renovation as it is significantly impacting and blocking my existing views from both my primary living room and my family room, and where I spend all of my time. Slide, please. As you can see in these pictures, without the silhouette flags, my views are so beautiful, and now they will be reduced quite substantially if allowed. I believe there are possibilities to mitigate losing my views in the following ways. Change slide, please. Remove the roof over the covered patio entertainment area, which currently takes away a good portion of my views. I believe that the new wing's roof line should be lowered by at least 3 feet. This could be accomplished by bringing the first floor closer to natural grade. Change slide, please. I understand the renovations for homes that are on 2 lots, which my neighbor 529 has, should be built out with more square footage on the lower level, reducing the impact of the upper level of the neighbors. Number 4, I request that vegetation in the east side setback not exceed the height of the adjacent eaves, and vegetation on the rest of the lot not exceed the lowest ridge elevation on the lot. Change slide, please. No approvals by the director to increase heights in the building envelope and increasing or adding any walls, fences on the lot. Changes must go to the Planning Commission. The addition must have its height elevation surveyed by a licensed certified surveyor prior to receiving the final or occupancy permit. And last, I also have a letter from my real estate agent, Matthew Engel, who is from Engel and Associates in Malaga Cove. I purchased my home 2 years ago. I just moved into this area, and the silhouette flags went up 1 year later. In the letter, it states that the property's sweeping and expansive ocean views drove the value of the sale. Property on Via Media is well known for its commanding ocean view, and it is the quality of the property's ocean view that drives market value for homes on Via Media. Any reduction to the current view at 520 will have significant negative impact to the market value of the property. So in conclusion, I oppose the renovations at 529 Via Media. I believe that in allowing such additions to be constructed, a precedent would be set for other homeowners to do the same, could be further destroying the integrity of the beautiful views of our terraced neighborhood. But I thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the applicant, I have no other cards for members of the public to speak. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on the matter besides the applicant? Okay, we'll come back to Mr. Park for 5 remaining minutes.
Okay, first of all, the extended portion under the cover deck area, as shown in A1.1, on green line A towards the green line A1 has not been added. You are correct. That portion that extends out from the green line A, which is the extension of the garage towards the alley or green line A1 has not been added. So we need to make that amend and move the door to the back to the green line A. Yes, it has not been added. Yes, that's correction I can make.
Okay, let me see if I understand what you're saying. You're saying that the extension out to where the covered deck ends has not been added?
No. If you can relate to the grid line A and the floor plan on A1.1.
A1 what?
A1.1.
Yep. Okay, there's an area, it looks like it shows the door, and it extends out under the covered deck. Is that the area that you're speaking of?
Yes. Anything beyond grid line A has not been added to the calculation. So yes, it's the part that's under the covered deck.
Okay. Now, if you add that, you'll be over your allowable building coverage number.
Yes, that's why we need to bring the gate that includes the garage under the deck back to the grid line A.
Okay.
And that would solve the problem there.
All right. All right.
As to the many comments that we hear, I think they are important.
Okay, I had one other comment before. As I discussed with Jeffrey at the beginning, you remove 14 feet. It looks like it was in the upper level pertaining to the stairway, right?
Yes.
So that 14 feet is still included
in the building area,
in the
yes.
building area on the bottom, right?
Correct, yes.
So do we add back in 14 feet? Because we're looking at the bottom. We're looking at the garage or the bottom level. Do we include that 14 feet?
No, it shouldn't. We shouldn't, because when we calculate a stairway, there's two levels, first floor, the second floor. So we did count the bottom ground floor, but the ensuing opening.
I understand that you deduct it from floor area.
Right.
But do you not include it in lot coverage?
We did include that in the area in the ground floor area. Yes, that's included in the building lot coverage area.
Somebody help me. I'm not sure I understand.
I believe, Mr. Park, you're saying that the stairwell area is included in your lot coverage number. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Does that help?
Okay, so I think it's added back in, is it not?
It's always been there.
It's already in there.
Yes.
So why would you take it out on the upper level? I mean, that doesn't make sense.
Because it's a stairway.
Well, I understand that. You're taking it out of floor area, but
yes,
but not lot coverage.
Because we already counted at the ground level.
Okay, well, you're going to have to modify your project already to meet the building coverage requirement. So let's just validate that 14 feet is included, okay?
Okay, we'll find a way to show you how we did the calculation. Okay.
Please do, okay. So let me, and while I've got you there, let me just see if I can simplify your proposed remodel and addition. And if you look at the south elevation, I think it's sheet A2.0. Basically, what you're doing is you're extending the existing roof ridge out about 10 feet to the east. And then if you look at the east elevation, which is sheet A2.1, you're extending the roof about 40 feet to the south. And you're raising the roof by about a foot, and then you're dropping it back to the level of the front ridge on that side. Right?
Raising it by a foot?
Well, if you look at A21, you see, if you're looking at proposed east elevation, I'm sorry, I can't, hard to speak into the microphone, look at this. If you look at the existing roof, you move over where you add the new roof, you're raising it up about a foot, right? And then it runs to the south?
Correct, because
And you drop
because
it
the
down.
ridge line, yes.
There's another ridge line that's down about another foot, and that's the ridge for the cover over the unenclosed deck area.
Part of the new addition and also the cover area, yes.
Okay. All right, and if you look at sheet A3-0, section AA, this again is the east side, looking at the new addition. You have an area there, it's called new void area, right? You see it above?
Yes.
What is the new void area?
Attic space.
Just added space.
Yeah, it's a section cut at a location that shows the slope of the roof and then the
Okay, so-
top of the plate. Yeah.
That void area runs back over the new bedroom, does it not?
Yes.
Okay, so conceivably, you could lower that roof in that area.
No, because we have to have a ridge and we have to have a eave line. So this particular section AA is cut showing the ceiling framing and then the roof framing at that particular location. And it happens to be an attic space beyond 8 foot to top plate line.
Okay. Any further questions for the applicant?
He got through his 5 minutes, I don't think. I think we went right into questioning.
Well, we did, because I thought he was finished.
Oh, okay.
Do you have further comments?
No.
Okay.
I can ask.
Any further questions? Okay, we will conclude the public hearing, and we'll bring the matter back for discussion. Okay, well,
I think we have two basic issues. One is the roof ridge, the roof lines, and the size of
Yeah.
the project. And you look.
yeah, I think what Commissioner Foster's saying is, it looks like we are wrestling with two issues. The height of the ridge and the size of the structure, and the impact on, quite frankly, the impact on ocean views to the neighbors on the south side of Via Media. And as I mentioned before, I visited Mr. Nendick at 508, Ms. Covington at 516, and I spoke to Mr. Holman at 524. We also have other speakers tonight extending down the street. Mr. Eagle, Mr. Landerville, and Mr. Talbot did not appear tonight, but he did submit, Mr. Talbot lives at 516, and he did submit a letter with pictures indicating that his views were impacted. And that's consistent with my observations when I was there. I do think the proposed remodel and addition has a significant impact on the ocean views of these individuals. I think because of the location of the new addition on the east side and running north-south, the impact to ocean views seems to become more significant to residents on the south side of Via Media as you move east. And what I'm troubled with is it appears to me as though the applicant already has pretty expansive ocean views and is seeking, obviously, to add additional square footage and enhance those views, and sadly at the expense of these neighbors. That, to me, is unfair and unacceptable. I'm also concerned about, again, I'm confused and troubled by, we obviously have more square footage added and more lot coverage than is approvable, and that needs to be addressed as well. I understand the architect will have to address that, but I think in addition to addressing the size of the project, I think he's going to have to address the impacts on the neighbors' views, which I contend are not acceptable and need to be mitigated. For me to consider approval of this, I agree. I think the roof over the new deck needs to be removed, and the remaining portion of the roof lowered, at least to the height of the existing north-south roof on the east side. So I think some additional work needs to be done with regard to elimination of the deck roof covering and a lowering of the height of the addition. So for those reasons, I'm not positioned to approve the project tonight.
Thank you for that. I think you covered the main issues, obviously the neighbors' view impacts, but I want to dig into a couple other concerns here. One is the hardscape. There's a lot that's being proposed here on hardscape, and if you look at the property now, there's a fair amount of landscaping, and they're getting rid of a lot of that, and that what feels like they're turning this property into really just an entire hardscaped property, and it's bumping right up against the maximums that are allowed, and they may be in the right to be right below the maximums, but that's really it doesn't feel right. It doesn't look right. The total proposed building coverage is at 29.9%, which is 30% is the max allowable. That doesn't really leave a lot of space for wiggle room. I don't think we've ever had 29.9. I think we've asked them to kind of come down and leave a little bit of breathing space into that. And so that's a major concern of mine, the heights of the roof. And let's talk about this being a double lot. It was mentioned earlier, but it looks like in the previous renovation when they added what is now the current driveway on what I'll call the west side where it comes out towards the ocean. The east side is where the pool is, and that really is the existing view corridor. And I know, if we go back into history, we've talked about this. View corridors are really how Palos Verdes Estates was designed, to leave those open for neighbors. This proposed design would eliminate that view corridor. And I think it's not just the neighbors right behind, but there's this perpendicular effect where neighbors off to all the sides who are looking to the north, to the east, are going to be affected. So I think the collateral damage is not just from the 5 or 6 houses. I think it's a much larger impact here on the view issues with the neighbors. So I have issues, these conditions to approve. I mean, they're sort of, they haven't really checked any of the boxes yet for me. I mean, they're changing the contours of the land. This new driveway that's going sort of underground through the opening in the wall is interesting to me. The hardscape issue, and then just the collateral damage on the existing views and eliminating the existing view corridor. I think once that goes away, it never comes back, and I think that would be terrible for the neighborhood. Mr. Foster?
I agree. My initial concerns as well is I think the roof design needs to be looked at, the overall size of the project and everything that you two have said.
Okay, I think the commission has spoken that we are not in a position to approve the project as proposed this evening. We would offer the applicant the opportunity for a continuance to our next meeting, regular meeting, which would be
October 15th.
October 15th. And again, if the applicant is willing to accept that continuance, I would encourage the applicant to look at, again, lot coverage. Has been pointed out by my colleague, Commissioner Campisi, and I don't disagree with him. There's a lot going on in this lot, a lot of hardscape coverage, and I didn't even get into that because I was so confused over the building coverage. I would encourage the applicant to look at the building lot coverage and make sure that we are not coming in at, close to 30%, because that's just pushing the limit here. I think some serious consideration needs to be given to not only removing some square footage, but also the covering over the outdoor deck. And again, I would look at significantly lowering the ridge heights for the new addition. That's at a minimum. So if the applicant were prepared to offer that the continuance to the next meeting, is that acceptable to you? So I will make a motion that...
Mr. Chairman, wait, can you wait? Mr. Parks, can you come to the podium, please?
Yes, the continuance is acceptable, yes.
It seems like you're going to have to do a major design. I just wanted to make sure, are you going to be ready for the October 15th meeting, or would you like it continued to the November 19th?
I need to talk to the property owners, and can I get back to you on that, or do we?
Okay, then let's continue it to the October 15th meeting.
October 15th.
Yes.
No, actually, it should be the next month, after
November?
The November, yes.
Okay, then the November 19th meeting.
Okay, then I would make a motion that we continue this matter to November 19th, to our regular meeting on November 19th.
I'll second.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
And Mr. Parks, the sign that's outside on your property, can you please change the date to November 19th?
November 19th.
So all the neighboring properties know that it's been continued to November 19th.
We'll do so, okay.
Thank you.
One last thing, too. All the changes will need to be re-silhouetted, and we will need a silhouette certification along with your resubmitted plans.
Yeah, understand that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 remaining items. We're going to let Commissioner Nendick know she can come back in if she's in earshot. And we're going to take about a 5-minute recess, and we'll reconvene about 8:15, and we'll take up the remaining 2 items. Now we're back in business. And we'll take up now item 8, which is neighborhood compatibility and grading applications for a new single-family residence at 4016 Via Larga Vista. And let me first ask whether commissioners have any ex parte communications or other activities to disclose at this time.
I'll start. I visited the neighbor, 4020 Heather Schuckert. Spoke to her. Nobody was home at the applicant's.
I likewise spoke to Heather Schucker at 4020 Via Larga Vista.
I toured the subject property, visited the neighbor, 4012, but no one was home.
I did site visits with 4020, 4021, and 4025 Via Larga Vista.
Okay. Okay, let's see here. All right, can we have the staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Wade. Tonight's presentation is a neighborhood compatibility and grading application for a new single-family residence located at 4016 Via Larga Vista. The neighborhood compatibility application is for a 2,036 square foot first floor addition. 2,036 square foot first floor, a 1,905 square foot second floor, and a 492 square foot garage. The grading is due to quantity of cut and fill exceeding 250 cubic yards. This is all located on a 8,995 square foot lot. The proposed total floor area is 4,433 square feet. Again, I need to make a correction to the maximum allowed square feet. On the staff report, it says 3,360 square feet. It should be 4,449 square feet allowed for the lot.
Wow.
The proposed floor area comparison is 165% of average of the floor area of existing homes within a 300-foot radius. Proposed floor area ratio comparison is 162% of the average floor area ratio of existing homes within a 300-foot radius. There is approximately 274 square feet of gross floor area proposed. The proposed building coverage is at 28.7% with the 30% maximum allowed. Proposed total lot coverage is at 58.5% with 65% maximum allowed per the municipal code. The proposed maximum building height is at 28.92 when measured from a intersecting natural grade elevation of 410.9. And there is approximately 238 cubic yards of cut and 7 cubic yards of fill. The findings required to approve, as well as staff's recommendation, is included in staff's report. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have for me at this time. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Jeffrey?
Yeah, Mr. Graham, can you just reiterate the correction you made? Proposed total floor area, it's 4433, and you said the maximum is 4449?
Yes. 4,449 square feet is maximum allowed.
Max allowed, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Wow.
Jeffrey, this is going to be a total demo then?
Yes.
Okay. Do they need to provide a demo plan?
Not with this neighborhood compatibility application.
Okay, anything else for Jeffrey? If not, I see Mr. Johnson there. Keith?
Get my slideshow up, please. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Keith Johnson with Pritzcat & Johnson Architects. Thank you for taking the time tonight to review this application. At the neighbor meeting, we had positive feedback for the project. This new two-story home will be replacing an uncared-for, dilapidated structure, which, when completed, will improve the appearance of the neighborhood and increase surrounding home values. Next slide. I designed the home to meet the 4 objectives of the Neighborhood Compatibility Ordinance, which in part is why we did not receive any suggested modifications or concerns regarding the design of the house from the neighbors. Next slide. The land gradually slopes up from the street towards the back of the property. To preserve the natural amenities but also make the home more usable for my clients, the different yard areas have been terraced. The front yard is at an elevation of 409.75. The main level and rear patio are around 411.38, and the upper lawn is 4 feet above the rear patio. Next slide. The size of the home is between 150 and 200% of the neighborhood average in this transitional neighborhood. We have an additional 8-foot setback from what is required on the upper level that reduces the massing from the street. We have minimal gross floor area, which also helps to reduce the overall massing. Because we don't have to have the setback the same on both sides of the house, we've given more setback to the one-story neighbor to help mitigate the impact of the second story. The height above natural grade is similar to what the easterly neighbor got approved through neighborhood compatibility process. Next slide. This slide shows how if you connect the line between the 2 adjacent 2-story homes, our ridge line falls within that envelope. This slide also shows the larger setback we provided to the 1-story home. Next slide. While we have a balcony on the front elevation that is the width of the house, it is narrow and would not be conducive to a gathering area, as its main purpose is to enhance the transitional Mediterranean architectural style of the home. The balconies are off of bedroom and spaces, so there's no intent to have large gatherings like you would if breaking out from a public space. This helps to preserve privacy of the adjacent neighbors. The upper level windows on the east elevation are located in bathrooms and are 4'10" off of the floor, which helps with any privacy concerns. On the west elevation, we have 2 bathroom windows and 4 bedroom windows, all the same size, and they are all 4'10" off the floor. The bedroom windows are along the bed wall to bring in natural light. These windows would be hard to access with furniture in the way and are high enough off the floor to help preserve privacy. Next slide. The neighbors behind our project were not able to attend the neighborhood meeting, so I met with them separately to review the plans. Their main issue with the project was the condition of the existing trees in the rear yard. Their landscape architect and arborist said that because they have not been maintained, they are in pretty bad shape and need to be removed. My clients agreed to remove the trees and plant a hedge in the back tall enough that would block the view of the house and the master balcony and provide privacy for both neighbors. This is documented on the plot plan and site sections. I'll end my first part of the presentation this time and take any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions for Keith?
I know. Do you?
None? Okay, I see that there's no miscellaneous applications, so there's a number of proposed walls and structures on the site plan. I assume we've got nothing that requires a miscellaneous?
Correct. They're all under 6'6" or 3'6" in the front.
Okay.
Do you know if the neighbor when you're looking at the house on the left, has a pool or any water? Just because you're taking down the chain link fence that's on their property, it says, so if they have it, I was just worried, and I couldn't tell from Google.
So I don't think they do, and I've been in touch with that neighbor. He's emailed me a couple times because the fence is on his property, but when we move those trees that are growing into the fence, I just told him to contact my client. They've been in touch to decide how they're going to re-fence the property on the property lines.
Okay, because there's no new fence on the property line, so that's why I wanted to make sure.
Right, yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else for Keith?
I get a quick question. I know the people next door, that same family, they're willing to agree to whatever as long as those trees disappear. But I think we have to make clear that we don't have the right to say anything about trees. So that's the PVHA if it's on public property, right? And private property. So we just want to I want to make that clear that we don't have any say in that.
Yeah, she did Heather mentioned that to me when I visited, and she said, we're kind of hoping that we can get some of this overgrown foliage removed, and I noticed from the site plan, you have about 15 trees in here that you're going to propose to remove.
The clients, they bought the house as it was, basically, so their intention is to clean up everything and bring it to take.
But I did tell her, and as Commissioner Nendick mentions, I said, the applicant's going to have to go to the Homes Association, and I'm presuming that you have not done that yet, so you don't know for sure.
We've submitted
whether
to the Homes Association. I mean, it's on the plans. I don't know if we specifically filled out application for tree removal, but they didn't comment on any of the removal of that.
I know in my own case, when I was going to remove trees in my property, I had to go to the Homes Association and I can get it reviewed by them. So, I did tell her I understand that they're representing that they want to remove these trees, but I don't think the approval is there quite yet. So, be aware of that.
So what you're putting back, then you're taking those trees out and then you're putting a bunch of trees back in?
A more maintained hedge. Just because the arborist was saying some of the trees may fall over, it's growing into the...
No, I get that part.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to take out and then put in and have the same issue.
No, my clients are going to work with the neighbors behind them and come up with a planting solution that also we need to take through the fire department.
Okay, any other questions for Keith? So I think I don't have any cards from anyone wishing to speak on this item. Does anyone wishing to speak on the Via Larga Vista issue? If not, you have another 5 minutes if you think you need them.
A few more things to say, please. Next slide. Part of the application before you tonight includes a grading application. One of the reasons we are triggering the grading application is due to pushing the house down into the ground. While this is typically done to protect views, I did it in this case to have slightly higher plate heights, which allows me to have arched top doors that aren't squatty looking or too tight to the ceiling. The other reason the application is being triggered is the amount of cut in the backyard. Currently, the backyard of the home is sloped and overgrown. To make the rear yard more usable, I've created 2 levels. Next slide. I do not feel these changes to the grading are unreasonable changes to the natural contours of the land, as we are still keeping the general flow of the land, just done with terracing instead of a single slope. Qualified contractors will be used so the grading will not cause any hazardous conditions to the adjacent neighbors. Our civil engineer will work with the Public Works Department to get a drainage plan approved that will not allow for uncontrolled water runoff. Next slide. Just as we feel the grading findings have been met, we feel the neighborhood compatibility findings have also been met. The new home is roughly the same location as the old home, and I've considered the natural slope of the land with our terracing. Based on the numbers and the neighbor response and support, we feel the home is compatible with the neighborhood character. We've worked with the adjacent neighbors to find a solution to address the existing trees and their privacy concerns by proposing a new hedge. Existing views were not interfered with as a result of our new home, so we're looking for your approval tonight. Next slide. I do have one request regarding the conditions of approval. Number 5 is a standard condition. Number 28 seems to imply that we can't do anything in any easements. This is not true. In HOA easements at the sides of the property, we've always been allowed to do hardscape walls and fences. For example, if I were to required to move the walls out of the easement, there would not be enough clearance for fire department access along the east property line. There is a utility easement in the rear, and we have not shown any walls in that easement. I'm not sure why this condition needs to be here, and it will just complicate the approval process later. I would ask that it be removed, since number 5 basically says the same thing, but is worded better and allows for review and approval by the PVHA, who is in control of the easement in the side yard. If you have any other questions, happy to answer them too.
Okay.
I have a quick question, just back to the front deck that you're talking about. So that's one continuous deck across the entire width. And
yeah.
So I think you would characterize it as not, nobody would congregate on there. What's the sort of the reasoning behind?
It's off of bedrooms, so it's not like a living room party situation where people are going to flow out of there. You know, someone may be sitting out there or something, but it's only a few feet wide on one side and maybe a little deeper on the other. So it's not, we can't get a lot of furniture out there either.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Which side of the property is the utility easement? I see the HOA easement.
It's the rear property line.
Rear, okay.
Yeah. It's a 5-foot utility.
Okay, there it is.
So the balconies in the front, what are the widths on those? Just offhand? I know. I'm standing and not talking into it, but I'm asking about the widths of the balconies in the front.
The depth, I guess you're asking, is 5 feet, and then on one side and 7.5 on the other.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Keith? Okay. Hearing none, I think we are ready to bring this matter back and discuss it at the commission. Someone like to start?
Question for staff, did we receive any written correspondence on this?
From a real estate agency, yes.
What?
No, I
One
don't.
piece is online.
Oh, from, yep, okay.
Calabria,
Yep,
I think.
that's the one, got it. Okay. Go ahead, Janine.
It's hard because the people aren't complaining that much. I mean, they want it cleaned up because it's bad from their point of view. One resident did say she felt it was just too big and massive, that it's not in keeping with the character. And, so I tried looking and seeing, we were told for ages that we're supposed to keep the FAR 40% maximum, and this is 43.8, so that worries me. That shows me that it's got more. And I was trying to see relative to the other homes, and this would be the third largest home in the area. And the second largest one has me dumbfounded because the square footage that they're giving on it right now is already more than you're allowed to have, and that doesn't include the garage. So I wonder if the second largest one if it's really that big, but I don't know the answer to that. And the largest one is on an 18,000 square foot lot, and that one's about 900 square feet more. So I worry that it's a little bit, and what the person was saying is that because the peaks are so sloped, it's 6 and 12, and it's all to the front, it gives a feeling of being right there. So that's my worry thing about this, that, this isn't a neighborhood with really high plate heights. It's not a neighborhood with all this. I don't know the exact answer. I want to hear what everyone has to say.
I have somewhat of a concern of 4012. This looks kind of like it's sitting in a hole between these two properties, two neighboring properties.
What is that one?
I think that the setback mitigates that to some degree, but it's still putting that property in a valley.
Yeah, I had the same concern as well. And nobody, although Ms. Schucker did indicate, yes, the house is pretty tall, and I think it's taller than ours, I think she was more concerned about having a new, better-looking home next to her and getting rid of the overgrown foliage. But she did have some concern about the height of the project. And that's kind of my concern as well, is the size and the height of this. And as Commissioner Nendick said, this is the third largest home of 50 within a radius of 300 feet. And the lot size is only 102% of the average, with only 14 lots larger. So we have a very large home on an average lot. And at nearly 29 feet, we have a very tall home. And it appears to be taller than the Schucker residence, although it's within a matter of about a foot difference. And I agree with Commissioner Nendick, but I think part of the issue that strikes me when I look at the structure is the two gables in the front give the sense that it's a very tall home, and the Schucker home has a kind of a hip roof which looks flatter. So. And the pitch on the two gables is like 612. As Keith did indicate, the house also has high plates, 10.6 on the first floor, and I see 9.1 on the second floor on the east side and 10.1 on the west side. So I'm struggling a little bit with the size of the house. We're at 4,433 square feet with 6 feet less than the maximum. So we're really pushing the limits here at 165%. I'm personally a little concerned about the height and size of the house, and I know the neighbors are not out complaining about it, but I think we have a responsibility as a commission to look at this with fresh eyes.
Yeah, I agree with those those percentages. I think it's a little bit out of line here. I know that the neighbors support it because they're looking to sort of improve that property that's been dilapidated. I'm inclined to approve it with some conditions to bring the roof pitch down. I know Mr. Johnson has never been a fan of us changing his architectural style or making changes like that, but I think in this case, it does warrant it based on the look and feel from the street, bringing down the height. I would even say maybe going down even lower, the first floor elevation and bringing that down just a little bit more to just reduce the impact of how it looks from the street. It looms over everyone else except the Shookers because their house is sort of, already a large house too, but it's not as large in total size. So I think we're kind of on the same page with the concerns.
So you're mainly focused on the height? I'm a little bit concerned about the size, too.
I think it's just hard because we've been told for so long 40% FAR maximum. And this is, and that's why we get the comparison sheets. And I know it's written different now in the staff report, but that's the number we're looking at. So,
So what would it take to get to 40%? I guess we're at 43,
ideally
we're at 43.8%, right?
So, and then we have to do, I think Keith
40
probably could do the math faster than
40%
me.
is a 3,500 square foot house. We're at a 39, so we're talking roughly 400 square feet.
Is that right?
If you look at the 150% of average right above on the sheet, it gives the math.
I would say something less than, well, this is almost 44%, but be mindful as we go through the floor area ratio for some of these properties, some of the recent builds, and there haven't been too many, but some of them, well, there's one at 45.9%, one at 50.6%. That would be one of the largest homes.
Well, the 50.6 is the one those numbers are weird on it, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it's possible how that thing would be more than 1,000 probably square feet bigger than they're allowed to have. So something seems wrong with that number. I don't know.
The 1990s.
There's another one at Pick-a-Post, 41.6, so I'm not wedded to 40% exactly, but I would like to see the house come down, or I don't know, maybe it's the gable design of the roof that strikes me, and maybe we're not looking at a lot of reduction in height. I don't know that the roof could be changed in some way to alter the pitch. The pitch on the two gables are pretty, 612 is pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
I don't have a specific recommendation on the floor area size, although it seems a little large, so.
Well, if it was a little over 41%, that's 3,700 square feet.
So 200 square foot reduction.
The numbers keep getting higher and higher, and this FAR was something that they stuck to so religiously, and it keeps getting pushed out further and further, that it's a difficult thing, so, I do think it needs to be a bit smaller, and I think it needs to, if they want to have the 6 and 12, it needs to get lowered. Something just has to change the impact that you're feeling for it.
That kind of summarizes it right there. That could be the request back to the applicant, is to bring it closer to 40% FAR, reduce the roof pitch. see if they're willing to
Or
do that.
lower it somehow so
Lower
that
the
it doesn't
lower.
give that impression. I
Yeah, because
agree.
they are a little over a foot taller than the neighbor's house,
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I'm not looking at, any 4-foot or 5-foot reduction. I'm trying to get it, and I'm mindful of what Mr. Johnson presented when he was looking at the homes in the area, and it's relatively close to that level, that flat level. But I think because of the roof design, I think if you brought it down 2 feet,
It's the high-pitched gables that give it.
yeah, I think, and maybe did something with the gables, I'm not sure it would have the same impact of mass and looming nature, and I agree, we should take, a couple of 100 square feet of floor area out.
Okay, how do you want to accomplish that? With a continuance or with an approval with conditions?
And I think you need to give him the choices
Yeah.
to do what.
Yeah.
he wants to do.
All right, Keith, you're hearing what we're thinking, so,
Can I just get clarification on this 40% FAR? I've never heard that before.
It's been around forever.
In what?
And that's why you see it on the floor
What is-
area
but what is it-
ratio
what
on
has
the
it been in?
neighborhood compatibility chart. It's a ratio of floor, so it doesn't include your garages. It's a ratio.
I know what a FAR is, I just don't know why it has to be 40%.
Well, because we go by whatever the precedent's been for years, and this was the conversation for years and years and years and years. And since I've come on, it seems to have, we don't hear about it as much, but, I mean, they were adamant for years that you could not go over 40%. Now they're going over a bit, we've been going over a bit more, but it's just to keep the bulkiness down, they used to say. It's
So I think my sense is the 40% is a guideline, and I've seen it written in neighborhood compatibility documents when I first came on the Planning Commission. And when I see numbers over 40%, I look at them a little bit more carefully, and I think that's what we're doing here.
That's fine.
I don't think it's, I've seen other approvals of lots with a higher FAR. So I think, you've got to apply some common sense to this, and it's not a hard and fast rule, but I think what troubles me is the height and the square footage at this particular location.
And I'm willing
That's what
to
strikes me.
lower the height or look at changing the pitches to make that happen. The square footage, you're talking about maybe 200 to 300 square feet coming out, which is a bedroom. And we kind of have a tight floor plan, and I'd rather have them get the square footage of the house than feel like they have to do like an ADU in the back or something like that, which is going to be 800 square feet. So I think,
then maybe
this.
we should see what you do, because you're going to be able to show us more than,
Right.
we could have all these ideas.
No, and I think lowering the house will help and be able to keep the square footage then, because I know I can make my case next time, but just to avoid a third meeting, that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. But I'll take a continuation.
Yeah,
Square footage needs to come out.
Yeah, I think if we were to give you a continuance, you know what we're thinking.
Before we end this discussion, I think the wall that in the very back, the grass area that's raised up, it looks like the wall is already, what's the height of that wall? Top of wall is 416. I guess what I'm saying is there could be some collateral impacts if he brings the house down. That wall might be taller in the back, and I don't know if it's going to be.
It'd be taller, but it's measured from existing or natural, so it's not going to change my numbers or trigger miscellaneous.
Gotcha.
All of his walls are fine, basically.
All right, I don't think this is a complicated ask from us, so next month, could we have you?
Next month is fine.
Okay, so I would move that we continue this application to our next regular meeting, which, again, help me out, it's November 17th?
October 17th.
October 15th.
15th.
15th, okay, October 15th. Do we have a
Second.
second? In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Chairman Wade, before you go on, Keith, on the sign, if you can change the date of the sign to October 15th. Have the sign, thank you.
Okay. All right, and our final item is item 9. It's a neighborhood compatibility application for a new single-family residence at 3436 Via La Selva. And I will ask again whether commissioners have any ex parte communications or other activities not the record that warrant disclosure at this time?
Yeah, I viewed the subject property, contents of neighbors' doors, so that wasn't able to find anybody home.
Okay. All right. And I likewise went to the subject property and made an effort to see the neighbor at 3432, the Katzmans, but was unable to do so. I did visit the neighbor at 201 via Navajo, and also went to 3433 PV Drive North twice, but was unable to speak to anyone there. But I did observe the project from the driveway at 3433, and I did speak to the neighbor, Ms. Smith, at 3429 PV Drive North, and she expressed, we went into her backyard, and she did express some concern about height and potential privacy issues to her, although she said they're probably not as significant as what the neighbor at 3433 might experience. So those are my ex parte communications.
I visited 3432 Via La Selva, spoke to Christian Katzman. I also visited Rosemary Miller at 201 Via Navajo.
And I did site visits with the owners at 3432 Via La Selva, 200 and 201 Navajo Place, I guess.
Via Navajo.
Via Navajo?
No.
Oh, is it Navajo?
It's Navajo Place.
Okay.
My bad.
All right. We will then ask Jeffrey for the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Wade. Tonight's final presentation is for a neighborhood compatibility application for a new single-family residence located at 3436 Via La Selva. The scope of work includes a 1,920 square foot first floor, a 1,665 square foot second floor, a 14 square foot mechanical closet, and a 417 square foot garage. All of this will be located on a approximately 8,000 square feet, 8,036 square foot lot. Proposed total floor area is at 4,016 square feet. And again, I have to make a correction to the maximum floor area allowed. It should not be 3,360 square feet. It should actually be 4,018 square feet. The proposed floor area comparison is at 152% of the average floor area of existing homes within a 300-foot radius. The proposed floor area ratio comparison is at 180% of average floor area ratio of existing homes within a 300-foot radius. There's approximately 174 square feet of gross floor area, and the proposed building coverage is at 29.1% with 30% maximum allowed. Proposed total lot coverage is at 64.2% with 65% allowed. Proposed maximum building height is at 28.92% when measured from an intersecting natural grade elevation of 95 feet. And the findings required to approve and staff's recommendation is outlined in staff's report. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have for me at this time. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Jeffrey? All right, hearing none. Mr. Leach, we tried to keep you, put you the last man up.
Thank you. Good evening. First off, I want to thank whoever put this table here because it's very, very helpful. So thank you for that. It's a big deal. It's so helpful to have that to lay out the plans. So I am here tonight with Davis Moore. He's the owner of the property. The proposed home will keep the existing footings and existing perimeter and existing floor joists and the existing garage slab. The property slopes about 7 feet from the front to the rear, and no existing trees will be removed. The adjacent homes to the east and the west are obviously one story, as well as the home behind the property. The adjacent property to the west is on average about 3 feet lower than the subject property, as our property slopes 3 feet from east to west, and assuming the street keeps going that way, it's about 3 foot lower lot. The property behind us is much lower, as you can see depicted on the cross-sections, the site cross-sections. The home across the street, obviously fairly new, I'm not sure, 10 years ago maybe. Spanish house is 2 stories high. It's a very nice house. The rear setback is 39.19 feet, which is well beyond the 15-foot minimum requirement. The proposed second floor deck was situated in the middle of the property, not on a corner, not on either corner, but in the middle, to mitigate privacy concerns. The secondary bedroom windows and 2 bathroom windows are proposed along the sides. So we don't have any major windows along either side of this house. The size of the home is 152% of the average of the neighborhood, as you see on the chart, which is well within bounds of what's been approved recently. The architecture is a combination of beveled siding, batten board, and brick. And we do have preliminary art jury approval. The plate heights are 9 feet 9 inches on the first floor and 8 feet 9 inches on the second floor. The neighborhood meeting, you guys were dark last month, so the meeting was actually quite a while ago because I had everything in time for the meeting last month, but obviously that didn't happen. But so the neighborhood meeting was quite a while ago, but it was attended by about 5 neighbors or so. The neighbor to the east, adjacent neighbor, was supportive. The neighbor to the west, the husband was not there, the wife was there. I gave her my phone number. She specifically said, my husband wants to talk to you, and I gave her my phone number, but never heard from them. Likewise with the neighbor behind and over one who wrote a letter, but gave her my phone number as well and didn't hear back from her. Some neighbors at that meeting expressed privacy concerns. So if I can take you to sheet A1C. This is my hedge sections, obviously drawn to scale, and they show that if the Moores provide a 10-foot hedge at the rear of the property, and I'm looking at section A first of all, up at the top, but if we provided a 10-foot hedge at the rear property line, that would mitigate privacy for the neighbor right behind. The neighbor that wrote the letter, I mean, this same diagram could be applied, and actually the angle would be higher for that neighbor because it's a longer distance to the property line, and that house is actually closer to the rear property line than this house shown on section A. So the angle would change, the angle would uplift, it would go up higher, and privacy would be maintained. Although there's a lot of trees back there right now, so there's already, in my view anyway, a lot of privacy existing. And then the section B is a section cut through the house, the backyard to the west. And the section shows our deck at the second floor. And if we were to provide an 11-foot hedge, that would mitigate all the privacy for that backyard. Okay. We'd like to listen to there's some neighbors here tonight, obviously, and we'd like to listen to what they have to say. And I know I have 5 more minutes, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have right now.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Leach?
I have one question. I don't know if I'm reading the plans right or not, but it looks like on page A6, we're showing on the second floor of the west elevation, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 windows. And on the floor plan on A3, on the west side, it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 windows. So am I reading that right?
1, 2, 3, 4. You're right. You're absolutely right. I think the bedroom number 2 window is missing.
Yeah.
you're not counting the window and the staircase is shown. And so really, I'm showing 5 windows, not 4 windows. So there's only one missing, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a good point. Thank you.
Okay, other questions for Mr. Leach?
You'll like this one. I think you have too much square footage because you have, where you have the FAU, we have to count that as square footage because it is plate height higher than 7 feet, or 7 feet or higher.
No argument, right?
Okay, so that has to be. And the other thing, we did this, we had a joint meeting to discuss what square footage was, lot coverage, whatever. And the square footage is from the outside wall to the outside wall. It's not from the window to the window, because the windows are inset in the walls that stay here. So we count the square footage from, and you have a threshold out to the wall. So we count from the outside of the wall to the outside of the wall, not from the window to the window.
I totally agree with that, but what I have, I definitely counted, sorry, I don't know if you, I'm not in the
Upstairs, you counted from outside to outside, but downstairs, you can see on L, it's a shorter distance. So M, L, well, things are a little bit skewed because it says JJ, so it should say JK, I'm sorry, on page A1B.
Right.
It should go JKLL, but you have 2 Js, no L.
Okay.
But in any case.
I know where you're going with this. So those are not windows, those are French doors.
Either the French doors, they're inset. We go from outside of the wall to and we have a threshold at the bottom that goes to the outside of the wall. So the square footage is from, the code is clear.
But the area outside the French doors is open, it's outdoor area.
I'm just trying to say that that's how it's always, and when you go upstairs, you have the French doors going out and you're counting the whole area, which is how it should be. So all I'm trying to say is that we have to count all the areas, especially, this is so tight number-wise that it start, and then the other thing, unless I'm going crazy, when you add your numbers of A to O through O together, they don't come out to 1920. They actually come out to 1910, I think.
1929. Yeah, I'll double check that myself.
So I think that I
guess I'm pushing it back about this whole thing about French doors that are recessed back a foot or a foot and a half. You know, from my hand, from the door to the outside face of the wall is not there. You're outside the house.
it just, we did this whole thing with a joint meeting, and it was clear it's from outside wall to wall, so it just kind of skews things to start moving the inside wall. So, I mean, we can talk with staff and what have you, but
Yeah, I mean,
how I was told is outside wall to outside wall, and that we have to count all of it in, because you have the threshold that goes out. You have the wall up here
The
goes,
threshold doesn't come out a foot.
well, maybe your things are a foot, I don't know all of your numbers.
Threshold comes out 2 inches beyond the door.
Okay, in any case, your picture shows me the threshold coming out in some of these ones, so all I'm trying to say is that I think you need to talk with staff about this and make certain it all gets clear,
Okay.
because the numbers then
Okay,
are what you're allowed to have.
I'll work with staff. I mean, this would be, anyway, I'll work with staff on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions for Mr. Leach? All right, that'll be the applicant's first 5 minutes. I have a number of speaker cards. The Katzmans, let's begin with Christian, followed by Melissa.
I have Melissa go first, yes.
Sure. As a husband, you always want your wife to go first, right?
Yes, thank you. Okay. All right, good evening. My name is Melissa Katzman. I live at 3432 Villa Salva. I'm actually going to speak on behalf of our neighbors who are at right across the street at 3437 Via La Salva, the O'Toole family. They did write a letter, but I wanted to speak on behalf of them. The property is located directly across the street from our home. We have concerns about the overall height and massing of the proposed structure. It is significantly taller than neighboring homes on either side of the property and other homes on the block. We have resided in Belmonte for over 10 years and believe Belmonte and Palos Verdes offer a truly unique living experience. Our neighborhood's character, charm, and aesthetic value are represented by the PV Art Jury and Planning Commission. The neighborhood compatibility process ensures new construction is consistent with the intended building standards of the community. This proposed project is affecting the light, open-air aesthetic, views, and privacy for the surrounding homes. When building our family home, we followed the due process outlined by the city to ensure that our project was compatible. We respect the rights of property owners to build and remodel, yet we feel that there should always be a proper balance between new construction rights and the effects they have on neighbors' privacy and views. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen, you're up.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Christian Katzman. I live at 3432 Via La Selva, directly next door to the proposed development at 3436. Appreciate your time today as I share my concerns regarding the project. This project will have significant impact on my family's privacy and our quality of life. First, I want to address the issues of sunlight. Based on the design and the height of the proposed structure, we estimate that we will lose nearly 20% of our daily morning direct sunlight. My home office, which relies on natural light, will be particularly affected as the second story will block most of the light that currently enters through my windows. This excessive reduction in sunlight not only affects the comfort and ambiance of our home, but also diminishes its value and livability. Second, even more importantly, the height and position of the proposed second story raise serious concerns about privacy. The windows and deck that overlook our backyard as proposed will directly compromise the private space that my family uses daily. Our neighbors to the west have fairly dense trees and hedges, and that still allow fairly clear visibility into our respective backyards. But unlike the proposed build, their windows have no views into the back of our home. We have a pool that we swim in regularly. This space has always been an intimate private retreat for our family. The intrusion caused by the second story would mean that anyone on the deck or looking out of the windows could see directly into our backyard. This is especially troubling given that our children sometimes swim without full attire, which underscores how critical it is to maintain our privacy. Additionally, the overall height of the proposed build is excessive and does not conform to the character and scale of the surrounding neighborhood, disrupting the aesthetic harmony that has long defined our block on La Selva and our community. We believe that this build, as currently proposed, constitutes a significant and unreasonable invasion of our privacy and would greatly diminish our enjoyment of our own property. I urge the Commission to reconsider the approval of these plans, at the very least require modifications that would mitigate these serious impacts to both our sunlight and our privacy. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. All right, we have Stephen Mix, followed by Catherine Devereaux.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Stephen Mix. My wife and I live at 200 Via Navajo, been there for 30 years. I have two concerns about the project. One being my west-facing view, which is currently the roof line of 201 Via Navajo. The project as proposed would be my new view, which is about 8 feet higher than 201 Via Navajo. My second concern is neighborhood compatibility. The proposed height of the remodel is, I believe, as I mentioned, 8 feet higher than the neighbor on the west side, which is 201 Via Navajo, and 10 feet higher, 12 feet higher actually, than the neighbor on the east side. The proposed increase of roof line, I believe, is 10 feet from the existing roof line, I believe, if my numbers are correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Devereaux.
Hello, I'm Catherine Devereaux. I live at 205 Via Navajo. I've been in the neighborhood 23 years. I've experienced, this will be the 10th build I've experienced, and I've never come to a committee meeting. I have two concerns, one being the height. From my property, it directly overpowers the backyard line of sight, so the balcony would peer down. And I wrote a letter, and you can see a picture. The height is higher than the tallest power line. So it goes way above even the third tier of power line. So the height is definitely a concern for privacy, and then, of course, neighborhood compatibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And finally, last but not least, Rosemary Miller.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Miller at 201 Via Navajo. This is the house next door to me. I've never been asked about any of these things, so this is all new to me. They said they were going to put a second floor that, but it's very, very tall. I mean, it's very tall. And the back, they have that in the back, on the second floor, they have windows and a back, an area to sit out there, and that looks directly into my backyard, and it just seems like it's looming up there and I just have no privacy in the back. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Leach, you have your final five.
So I think these sections on A1C, the hedge drawings, are very helpful, which shows that we can mitigate privacy completely for these neighbors. I'm going to stop here for a second because I know that you guys won't approve this tonight based on my experience. So what I'm really looking for at this meeting, well, number one, we design the house as best we can. We have a neighborhood meeting. We do the best we can, and they don't contact me. So I'm doing everything I can, but if they don't want to work with me, they don't call me. So I can't help in that regard. I can't do anything. But what I would really like to know here tonight is how much you're going to ask me to lower it. I need a feet, because that's going to determine whether or not we can even do it. And then the second thing I'm looking for is based on Keith Johnson's project right before me. We're over 40% FAR. And I know you guys would have commented on that, so I'm cutting to the chase. What kind of square footage are you going to want me to remove? With that information on both those things, I can go back and to the drawing boards. But without that information, I'm guessing, and I don't want to come back 2 more times on this. I want to come back to the next meeting and get approval. That's really all I have to say. I'd be answer any questions you have as well, obviously.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Leach? Okay, hearing none, I think what we will do is close the public hearing, and we will discuss the project and try to give you some guidance as specific as we can, understanding that I'm not sure whether we can give you the exact height, the exact square footage, the exact percentage, because to a certain extent, we need to kind of see what the effects are. And I say that because it's hard to imagine, if I were to sit here and say, I recommend a 2-foot reduction, I may look at a 2-foot reduction and go, oh my gosh, that doesn't do anything. So I think what you're looking at, I mean, it's from my perspective, and we're now discussing it at the commission level, from my perspective, it's a very large, very tall home on a very small lot. So you've got a combination of things, and I could go through the statistics. It's 2 square feet less than the maximum. It's almost 29 feet tall. And if you look, it's the 4th largest house on the 2nd smallest lot. So, and the larger lots are anywhere from 2,300 to 9,700 square feet larger. So, I look at what you've drawn here and I go, wow, that's a beautiful design. I really like it, but it just strikes me as being the wrong project at this location. So I think personally, you're going to have to look at a significant lowering of the height and some reduction in square footage. Now, again, as we mentioned to Keith Johnson, I don't think we can sit here and say, well, it's got to be 41% FAR. But it's got to be more in line with something like that than 46. Or whatever it is, 44.6, sorry. But again, there's a combination of these factors that you have to look at, and it's just maximum, 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 maximum. And I understand applicants want the home of their dreams, but we have to be realistic. And I think you can address some of the privacy issues, but not only with hedges. I mean, I think you've also got situations where this is so tall and so close to some of the neighbors that it just looms over the neighbors and impacts. I mean, what I'm hearing is sunlight, and I talked to Ms. Miller, and that's the first thing she said, was I'm not going to have any sunlight from the west. And, I walked out into her patio area, and there's a balcony, and there's windows in the back that look right in the back of her house. So there are some privacy issues that I think you're going to need to address, but I don't think that's low-hanging fruit. I think you can do that. You can do it with vegetation screens, you might be able to do it with altering your fenestration, maybe some, repositioning balconies and things like that, but I think it's the size, the mass, and the height of the house makes this game over.
Yeah, well said, Chair Wade. I think, having 5 neighbors come and share their concerns is evidence enough that changes need to be made. So I'm not going to drive that point home, but I think the message has been sent, and we look forward to seeing what revisions come forth at the next meeting or the following meeting.
I think I agree as well. I think your FAR needs to be closer to 40 than closer to 44. That's the reality of it, which brings down your square footage, so I don't have to say how much square, do you know what I mean? And I think you just need to, they always talked about kind of tucking the decks in, so I appreciate that it's in the middle. But in some ways, if you're going to have to reduce some square footage, maybe you make a space in there so that the deck isn't 100% out in the back, right? So that, because when it's 100%, you feel like everyone's going to be looking at you, and I think that's a problem. And I get the idea of hedges, but you have to be realistic that hedges take sunlight away too. So that's why you're trying to find the right balance of height and vegetation, but I agree with what everything has been said. And I can't give you hard and fast numbers because I just don't know.
Yeah, another thing you might consider is the span of the house. It's right close to 201 and 3432. It's right there. I mean, I walked up the driveway at 3432, and I said, whoa, it's just a very tall house right there. There may be a possibility, if you're looking at reducing square footage, which I think you're going to have to do, tuck the house in a little bit on the sides.
Can I comment? Can I say anything?
I'm just saying it. You take it for what it's worth.
I know, but remember at the beginning of the meeting, I said we're keeping existing footings and...
I understand, but you're also going up, substantial height, and I think the proximity to the neighbors and the height combine to give you this looming massive effect. So I think that's the advice we can give you, and we can offer you a continuance. Mr. Leach, I don't know whether you want to come back October 15th or give it 2 months, whatever your pleasure is. We'll be here if you want to be.
Let's shoot for October 15th. I'm sorry, Cheryl, when would the plans be due for that meeting?
Let Jeffrey address that.
2 weeks from, let's see, 15th, so notices go out on the 3rd.
Yeah, there won't be notices. There won't be notices.
Oh, okay. So it's really, we would need plans by the 30th, September 30th.
September 30th? 13 days from now? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's shoot for that, and then obviously I'll let you know in advance if I'm not ready.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Also, Doug, can you change the sign to put the date of October 15th?
Okay. If we don't hit that meeting, then...
Then what'll happen, it is being continued to October 15th. If you're not able to make it, then you'll send a letter saying, like you've done.
Okay.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we continue this item, which is item number 9, 3436 Via La Selva, to our next regular meeting on October 15th, 2024.
I'll second.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion is granted. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate the neighbor input. It helps us make better decisions. Thank you.
Discussion item. You have a discussion item?
Yeah. So for discussion items, I have a discussion item.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead. So we keep talking about having a joint planning commission meeting, city council. In fact, the director sent us out emails last year, and we all put items forward that we wanted, and it hasn't gone anywhere. So I was told that I need to ask the chair to please request this of the city council so we can have this joint meeting. So, Chair Wade.
I hereby request the joint meeting with the city council to discuss the items we have heretofore advanced.
Yes. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, but if I can ask each of it's been a while, if I can ask each of the planning commissioners to send me an email of what you would like to be included on a joint meeting.
Okay.
We can do that again.
Yeah.
And if you have your emails.
Do that by the end of the week.
I'm guessing the council probably won't hear this until after November 5th.
Well, I think we need to try to move it forward at some point, because we just need to get some of this stuff resolved, and we keep going in circles.
Also, this is something that it would be up to the city manager to put it on the agenda.
Okay? The request, the plea has been made.
Thank you.
We are hereby adjourned until October 15th.